FTX road to Miami. Levon Aronian is in the lead. He won the first match in the final, and that means Wei Yi, he has to win the match today to take it to tiebreaks. If he doesn't do that, well, Levon Aronian will be crowned the winner of the FTX road to Miami. So welcome everyone to the very final day.
There we go. The avalanche continues.
Oh, what's happening on the bar?
3 seconds.
1 second.
Has to make a move.
Wow.
These guys are maniacs. Incredible game.
Pure panic from Shakria.
He's going to show the checkmate to us.
Wow.
Why did he give up this pawn?
Panic.
This diagonal, and he has.
I can't believe he's done that.
The players
Is
are
he just
so
blundered? He's just blundered.
He's lost his rook.
And it's over. Dingley Ren, his first smile so far in the tournament. Question is, who will end up with the biggest smile today? Dingley Ren, he won the previous tournament, and today his fellow Chinese player Wei Yi is fighting to do the same, but Levon Aronian is in the lead. And to guide us through the very final day in the tournament, as always, International Master Jovanka, Grandmaster Simon Williams, and Grandmaster David Howell. And David, what is it about for Wei Yi today to make that comeback?
It's just about taking his chances. Yesterday, Wei Yi actually played pretty well. 2 games he was completely winning, but he let the chances slip away. And in the end, Levon Aronian struck. So for Wei Yi, just be more decisive.
We could have tie breaks today, Simon, or we could have Levon Aronian crown the winner after the rapid portion. What do you expect from the final today?
I expect it's going to be a very exciting last day. We know that Wei Yi has to come out swinging, and he starts with the white pieces, so that's great. He has to show some aggression right from move 1. I don't really want to see any of this toing and throwing, I'll be honest,
Yeah.
that we've seen in the past, backwards, forwards, another 20 moves. None of that, straight for the throat. And if he wins, we could get tie breaks, which would be great.
Levon Aronian, obviously, he is in the lead. He won that crucial game yesterday, Jovanka. Have you been very impressed with Levon over the last few days?
Yeah, he just seems to be getting better and better. You know, he's playing quicker and quicker and more confident. And yesterday, the game that he beat Wei Yi, he showed some incredible preparation. Absolutely outclassed Wei Yi. So just when it counts, he's been able to strike.
Yeah. It was a very, very tense first day in the final. Levon and Wei Yi, they were tied after 3 games, and then came game 4.
We have Levon Aronian just under 14 minutes, whilst Wei Yi,
Just look how depressed he is.
1 minute on the clock. Sad news for the Chinese player.
It's kind of been the pattern of this tournament. It's like the youth, the younger players, they've been playing so well, such great attacking chess in some games. Oh, look at Wei Yi now, but yeah, somehow the experienced players like Levon Aronian, they've just crept through, got such great results. And this game has followed that pattern. The last 2 games didn't really follow that pattern, especially the last one. It was Wei Yi who caught Aronian in the opening, so Aronian wasn't able to get the flow going. Okay, this last move, though, from Wei Yi.
Aronian takes the game and the match.
It's over. Wei Yi resigns in the final game in the first match. That means Levon Aronian takes the lead in the big final. He won game 4, Levon Aronian, but the 3 first games, they were quite long games, and they all ended with the draw, so it was that crucial game 4 that won Levon Aronian the first match. And the final game, David, that was a rather quick one.
Yeah.
What happened in that final game that Levon won?
As Jovanka mentioned, it was great opening preparation from Levon Aronian first of all, but it did feel like Wei Yi fell apart. With white, when your opponent hits you with a new idea, you just sometimes need to take a step back, just play it solid, play it safe, and just at least survive the opening. But Wei Yi barely survived the opening, went straight to the endgame actually, where he was just a pawn down, and Levon Aronian's endgame technique was perfect. So, yeah, Wei Yi barely a chance in that game.
Yeah. And as we know, Jovanka, Wei Yi sitting at midnight in China. What do you expect he's been doing today to get ready in a must-win situation?
I think that he is going to be preparing for the opening stage. You know, that is the time where he's used a lot of his time, and he has to take those decisions a lot faster. So I think he'd be preparing there, making sure that he's got a few opening tricks up his sleeve for Levon Aronian, and again, just being quick and incisive.
Yeah. And how about Levon, Sam? What do you think he's been doing? Some vacuuming or some opening preparation?
Well, he said yesterday how important food was to keep his energy up.
Yeah.
And it is actually small things like this which make a lot of difference. So maybe he's been stocking up on some nuts, maybe getting a couple of bananas. They're quite good in there. Stuff like that. So, and probably put the Hoover to one side for this one. But he's playing really well. He's just got to keep his cool. And, he showed great resourcefulness yesterday because he was losing in a couple of games and came straight back. So it's going to be very exciting. But it's good that Wei Yi's got the white pieces, I think, in game one.
Well, Levon Aronian, he is now settled in St. Louis, his new home. He has switched from the Armenian to the American Chess Federation and now playing under the U.S. flag. We did visit him in St. Louis a couple of months ago, and he talked about his childhood. Take a look at this.
T-shirt from the movie Coming to America, and it's kind of symbolic that I'm coming to America, becoming part of this country.
Together with his girlfriend, Levon Aronian has moved into his new home next door to the chess club in St. Louis, USA. He was first introduced to chess by his sister at 8 years old in Armenia. Since then, he's come a long way.
She taught me to play chess because she said, okay, you're too annoying, here, do something. And then, then I fell in love with the game.
Levon had an incredible natural talent for chess, and at only 10 years old, the family became dependent on him to get food on the table.
Because of the fall of Soviet Union and a lot of problems in Armenia, my father and my mother, they were not earning anything, really. So I was earning the money by getting sponsors. Okay, there were, of course, tears. But it's very easy when you don't really have like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. No, I knew that I had to do this. My first successful tournament, I was playing under 12 in Szeged in Hungary. And my mother came to the tournament, but we couldn't afford her to stay in a hotel with us. And she was staying, we made an arrangement that the bus that took us to Hungary from Moldova, she could stay there. So she stayed on the bus for 11 days. She would come to the hotel, we would sneak her in so she could have a shower and things like that, or bring her something to eat, but she would stay on the bus for 11 days. Yeah, there were a lot of sacrifices from my parents.
His parents sacrificed a lot during the 1990s. Life was hard in Armenia back then, so Levon's success as a chess player was their only hope.
Back in the day, okay, I did have some sponsors, but I knew that if I travel to one tournament and if I don't play well, I cannot play any more tournaments. And in order to secure myself, which was of course foolish of me, at the age of 15 I would play blitz at nights. Just to earn some money on the side, because for amateurs of different countries, I think this $5 a game was nothing. But for me, $5 was a huge amount of money.
The Armenians are sad to see Levon leave. But at 38 years old, he feels this is the best option for him to keep pursuing his dream of becoming the world chess champion.
Oh, it's very nice being in St. Louis. There are pictures of me on the street next to the chess club. There are pictures of me in the some cafes and restaurants. You can see I'm a popular person in St. Louis. I feel very welcomed here, and also the people at the club and everybody that is working for the club are very welcoming, so that's very enjoyable. And my neighbors are Caruana and Dominguez, so It doesn't really matter where I am. I'm anyway a pretty boring person, just working on chess and trying to improve.
What a story Levon Aronian has. He is now 39 years old, the oldest player in this tournament. Doesn't look like it, though, but he says he's moving to the US, David, to keep pursuing his dream of becoming world champion. What chances do you give Levon Aronian?
First off, it's going to be difficult. A lot depends on the next few cycles of the World Championship, whether Magnus kind of stays on the throne, whether some other young players come through. But he's still up there. He's been a fixture of the World Top 10 now for, nearly 20 years. And yeah, I mean, if he can just maintain his level, maybe get a few lucky breaks here and there in terms of tournaments, qualification tournaments for the World Championship, still a chance. He's still a quality act.
How long is it possible, Simon, to keep playing chess at the very elite level that Levon is doing? So 39 now. We know Anand plays from time to time still. How long?
I mean, I guess it's like how long is a piece of string, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on the person. I mean, Anand, as you say, he's incredible. I mean, he qualified for the World Championships late in his life, the candidates, and so I mean, I think if you've got the energy and you've got the will, I think it's the will really, because you kind of lose the will a bit once you've been through the sort of process before. But if you can keep that up, then why not? I mean, the brain doesn't deteriorate too much, and yeah, I think he's got, decades in him, if he wants to.
And we definitely see what experience can mean. We've seen it in this tournament as well, Jovanka. What do you see for Levon Aronian's future?
Well, I mean, I agree with Simon and David saying that the path to the World Championship is going to be very tough and maybe very long. But, I mean, I definitely think that he can improve. And I think the prime test will be today, actually, because he will be facing a very young, enthusiastic, motivated Wei Yi. And, well, let's overcome that hurdle first.
Absolutely. Now, he also mentions his neighbors, Lenny Dominguez and Fabiano Caruana. He will be playing in the Olympiad together with these players. And David, playing for the English team, maybe you'll face them.
Yeah, I'm hoping to avoid Levon Aronian. I'll try and make sure I'm on a different board. But yeah, I mean, what a team that is. And it's just that whole kind of community spirit. I think that's what made Aronian so strong in Armenia. That's what brought Armenia 3 gold medals at Olympiads. Just the fact they were all similar generation. We saw pictures there of all these young players going on to become gold medalists, working together as a team. And he's got that kind of community again now in the US. I mean, imagine living next door to these world-class grandmasters, just playing blitz games every day, training every day. There's no better way to stay at the top of your game.
Yeah, Levon Aronian, a great team player, but today it is all about him. He will try to win today's match as well, or at least try to be the winner of the FTX Road to Miami. And let's hear what Levon said yesterday after winning the first match. Match number 2, coming up tomorrow in the lead. What's going to be your plan for that final match?
To stay being resourceful and, continue, maybe, do some work on the opening from the white side. Other than that, I think it was pretty smooth.
Smooth is the word Levon Aronian uses. He lives in St. Louis, but right now playing from Armenia. He is making his way towards India and Chennai, where the Olympiad will start in a few weeks. Wei Yi, as we know, sitting at midnight in China. It's going to be 8 o'clock for Levon Aronian when the game starts. And it's going to be Wei Yi with the white pieces in game 1. So what do you expect from game 1, David? I
think he really needs to be direct. He needs to do what he did actually yesterday in a couple of games where he did really test Levon Aronian at an early stage. It's just about those chances, and both sides got chances yesterday. Aronian was the only player to take those chances. We do see Wei Yi, he's not that far behind in rating, not that far behind in other aspects such as fighting chess. So yeah, he's definitely capable on his day. It's going to be exciting to see Levon Aronian getting ready in Army. Oh! Is he actually going to clean? No, he's just moving his vacuum cleaner. We had some fun with that yesterday, and Levon even answered after the game that he actually did, from time to time, vacuum in between games because he eats a lot to keep his energy up. So it gets a little messy. That was funny. The vacuum cleaner is... do you think it's a lucky vacuum cleaner then?
Can you get a lucky vacuum cleaner? I don't know. I think he kind of did that on purpose, just to let us show from the interview. He's got a very good sense of humour, has Lev today.
He does. Well, they're getting ready for game one. Wei Yi, he has to win today's match and take it to tiebreaks to win the tournament. That means the white games must be what he's looking forward to.
The white games are key, and with that in mind, Wei Yi starts with his queen's pawn. There's no queen's gambit accepted today, so actually this is interesting. Levon Aronian has completely changed his opening strategy. He's gone back to a more solid type of repertoire, what he's been playing since he was a child, basically. Levon Aronian, we see the Nimzo Indian defense, and this variation, I think it's called the same-ish, and White's pawn structure now ruined, but White has got the bishop pair and will have the opportunity to build a big pawn centre. This is really topical. A lot of the kind of elite players are fighting out this type of position right now. Black's kind of flexibility, solid structure against White's dynamism of the pawn centre. Look at White's centre, it's beautiful here. But there is a weakness on the c4 square. White's doubled c-pawns, and Black is going for those guys immediately. This is going to be a big opening battle.
Oh.
Who has studied their Nimzo Indian defence more deeply? This last bishop move. I mean, I'm not 100% familiar with all the different move orders here, I must admit. There's so many. I mean, for example, with White, you could have brought a knight out first. You could bring a bishop out first. You could push a couple of pawns. With Black, also, you could have castled the king early on. You could have pushed some pawns in the centre. Both sides have so many options on every single move.
Yeah. And just checking my database, I can see that Levon Aronian has actually played this position with the black pieces once before against Magnus Carlsen himself in a blitz game in St. Louis, now his hometown. And that game ended in a draw. So I think Levon will be feeling pretty confident. And he goes for the same formula, just controlling White's centre by advancing a small pawn forward. And then he's going to get ready to attack one of those weak pawns. And Simon asked Wei Yi to play directly, to go for the throat. And this is exactly what Wei Yi is doing.
And we have the Mean Girls.
The Mean Girls.
The Mean Girls, yeah.
The four-pawn attack. And, yeah, it's at least clear what Wei Yi wants to do. He wants to throw all the pawns forward. He could even throw the white G-pawn forward, potentially, at some point. Have a five-pawn structure there.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe a bit weakening, but...
I think, didn't Ivan Sokolov write a very good book on this opening? And one of the advantages of being a commentator is you get to see lots of openings which you wouldn't necessarily see or play. And I haven't really seen this opening from a White perspective, but I'm kind of looking at it and I'm thinking, yeah, this is the kind of thing I would play, because you've got all those pawns. They can start an attack at some moment. You can put your pieces behind them, exactly what Wei Yi is doing, and it's a nice, aggressive setup. So I'm actually thinking, yeah, this is certainly an opening which I could play. We're now going to see Black grab one of those bishops, and I think this is a clever move, trying to get a focal point in the centre of the board, trying to hold the centre before White takes it over. And this must all be, I'd imagine, Jovanka, reasonably well known.
It's been played before. I mean, 2 games in the database, but I imagine this is very thematic because, as you mentioned, Black has to take some control in the centre. Otherwise, he's just going to get steamrolled, as you mentioned. And here, we've now reached a point where there are no more games in my database. Hasn't been analysed before. So... well, the players are now going to start freestyling.
Yeah, and interesting last move from Wei Yi. He's just offered up a pawn sacrifice, actually. And the position could look very much like a king's gambit if Black does accept the sacrifice. Right now, a lot of pressure on Black's central pawn. This pawn attacked 3 times from White's 2 pawns here and from the White Knight. So you have to give way with this pawn somehow. Why not grab a pawn in the process? And, yeah, this looks very much like a king's gambit where Black has an extra pawn. But the question is, can White obtain activity? White needs something now. You're a pawn down and you have this kind of long-term weakness of the doubled pawns on this side of the board. So you need to kind of win in the middle game. Any endgame is going to go against you with White. The question is, do you just castle the king or do you push forward?
I'm a little bit surprised, David, that White gave up his dark square bishop as easily as he did in the game. Maybe that's the normal move. I don't know the theory, but I would have wanted to have kept that bishop. Imagine you had that bishop now in the current position. You could just take the pawn back and you can see that becoming a really strong piece. So a little bit surprised that White went for this system. And it's also a little bit worrying for Wei Yi that he's slowed down now, because he's basically, well, you could say a gambit, but he's also lost a pawn. I mean, has he just, I mean, this is not really the point to slow down, because it might be, you know, if he hasn't looked at this position before the game, that's a worrying sign, because obviously if you sacrifice a pawn in the opening, you should, you know, it's danger, and you should really know what you're doing, and you should have done your homework. So I'm kind of thinking, OK, maybe he has done his homework, because he's moved quickly there.
Yeah, but it is surprising. I mean, if we just rewind a couple of moves here, for example, if you want to play it safe, you could trade a set of pawns and then bring your knight out. So, for example, you just protect everything in the centre here. You're never going to be a pawn down. But in the game position, if we fast forward back to the game, after black grabbed this pawn, we've seen both sides castle their kings to safety now. It's not just the fact that you're a pawn down with black, but how are you ever going to attack? Like Simon says, without your dark squared bishop that previously sat on this square, ready to come out. Now it's a rook that sits on this square instead. And how do you ever get at the black king? Black's king looks actually pretty safe right now. You have to start attacking somehow, but I'm struggling to see it. Also, white does have a weakness in the centre. This pawn is a bit vulnerable on an open line.
Yes, it's a tricky one, right? Because it's not very clear for how white can actually move forward. So it might be one of those things like a bow and arrow. You know, you retreat the bow just to get it forward. So I'm just thinking maybe the knight can step backwards to d2 so that the rook can capture the pawn. It makes me very nervous, actually, to play material down.
Yeah. I love it. Generally, I don't know why. It's like that risk factor, you know. But
Life on the edge.
Yeah. But he's played your move there, Jovanka. And David, you were saying about the attack, and well, I suppose if he can take that pawn with his rook, his pieces are very good, aren't they? There might be some good, you know, combined with the light square bishop opening up. So it still seems a bit scary for black here.
One question for you guys here then, Simon, with that in mind, for example, if black moves the queen, white's rook, you said, has nice attacking potential now. You swing the rooks across, go for this black knight, remove that defender. Looks pretty decent for white, but would you ever get tempted as black to keep this pawn intact and defend it?
Oh, that's such a kind of King's Gambit type of defence, and you're like, go all in. I wouldn't even dream, it wouldn't even cross my mind, I have to say.
Too open.
I mean, the normal move in the King's Gambit against that is just to push the pawn, this pawn here, and, you know, that could just really open up everything towards black's king. So I don't think we're going to see that, are we? I mean, a bit greedy. Yeah. So
Levon's done more surprising things than that. I was just trying to find a way, playing devil's advocate, just trying to keep this black pawn intact. But if he can't keep it, then Wei has his chances.
Thinking now, Levon Aronian, they have castles, so I guess we are out of the opening. But on the subject of openings, have you guys heard about the game show, The Chase?
Yeah.
American?
Yeah. I saw this clip earlier.
Yeah, you did?
Yeah, it was great.
It was posted, a clip on Reddit from the show. So a question the other day on that show was, performed by Magnus Carlsen and Hikaru Nakamura in 2021, the double bunk cloud is a rarely seen maneuver in what? And the contestant, I think he answered juggling? Something like that. But then the expert, he said, don't you know who Magnus Carlsen is? He's the highest rated player in the world, so he got it. Yeah.
Nice.
Very nice.
I don't think anyone in Norway would fail that question, would they?
I think everyone would, yeah.
Everyone knows who Magnus is over here, don't they? But in England, it's a little bit different. So
yeah. Is it English? I thought it was American. It was maybe an English show.
It might be English, I think, actually. Yeah.
But it's cool. So they had a question from the Champions Chess Tour, double bunk cloud, played last season.
We're getting famous.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, Levon does touch his G-pawn, but doesn't move it 2 squares forward. Instead, just makes a little bit of air for his king, but at the same time, potentially weakens the dark squares. And Wei Yi very quickly just captures that pawn. And this was Levon's idea all along, to attack the rook with his knight.
Yep. Looks like a superficial square for the black knight, but at least he gains a bit of time. The black knight was maybe a target where it previously stood anyway. So white's rook will take a couple of steps back now, and it just depends what Levon wants to do next. Maybe bring the black queen out.
Yep. Well, I think we're looking at some exciting games, and it is the final day of the tournament and also the tour final for these two. And so, you know, that means a lot of excitement, a lot of adventure, and we love it when you at home get involved and join in on the fun and action. So we are once again having a selfie competition.
Yay.
How are you watching the tour? We want to see those photos. Remember to take them in landscape mode and use the hashtag #ChessChamps, and we will feature them on the show. And today's prize is 1 year's Chess24 premium membership. So remember, hashtag #ChessChamps. We want to see the selfies. We want it, the more interesting, the better.
Absolutely.
We love it.
Absolutely.
And also, we should remind everyone that we are having a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
How many grandmasters can you name in 30 seconds?
Yes.
And if you want to get in on the fun there, then you also can tweet us using the hashtag #ChessChamps and also Crypto Cup Challenge. It's not so easy, as some of us found out yesterday.
So, Jovanka, who's going to be tested today? I mean, like, Kaja put me on the spot yesterday. I mean, it can't just be me who's on the spot there. Someone's got to have a go.
But remember, the challenge, it goes on for the whole FTX summer of chess.
OK.
So maybe
that sounds like a cop-out to me, basically. So, yeah, I don't...
I must admit, I was pre-warned that Simon was going to be tested and that was going to be spur of the moment. So I couldn't suppress my laughter when he was doing it, because Simon was like, oh hello.
Yeah, I got trapped.
But you did good, Simon.
Yeah.
Average, very average, I think. So.
All right, well, you didn't mention any of these two, Wei Yi or Levon Aronian, and now it's Wei Yi thinking for over 2 minutes on this move. He played very fast in the openings yesterday, but is this opening, is it more difficult, harder to maneuver?
Possibly. I guess there's just a lot of choice. We talked about earlier, both sides being really flexible, but then a few exchanges happened and maybe the positions become a bit more concrete now. You have to be a bit more accurate. First, I guess Wei Yi has to just remove his rook from the firing line. The black knight on the edge of the board is attacking it. And maybe if we jump in, we can have a vote. Where do we think this rook is going to move to? It's attacked. Simon, do you think it's going to retreat, first of all?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to push it 1 square forwards, but I mean, that is just like a bit too much. So I expect... yeah, this idea Dave is showing, but I don't think this is anything at all, really.
Maybe the black queen just comes out, slides across, if white doesn't take this pawn. Also, the question is, you're attacking, maybe you don't even capture the rook.
It doesn't really do anything. So I expect the rook to personally go back 2 squares. So I got the option of doubling my rooks on the half-open file. That, to me, looks the most natural. And I expect Aronian's ideas to bring the queen out, but I think I'd put the rook there, just or maybe even the square in front of it, because then it can swing over, and we know how much I love a bit of swinging with my rook, should I say? Just clarify that, just in case there's anyone wondering there. But yeah, the swinging rook. So that's also another option, but that does go into the line of the bishop. So I don't know. That's the way I'd be thinking, David. Anyway,
Yeah, my vote is for that square actually as well, because I think that if black is tempted to open up the position, that's probably going to favour white, because he needs to initiate some activity, some dynamism. He wants that fire on the board, and more chances for Levon to go wrong. And I also quite like this rook. I'm going to call it a roving rook.
You like swinging as well?
No, I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say rook roller. Or rook, no, the rook roller is the incorrect one.
Rook over.
Rook over.
Rover, yeah. That's the one. So, yeah.
I'm going to be difficult and I'm going to vote for this square. So I don't think we'll bet on this. It's not the most critical move.
Yeah.
But it is surprising to see Wei Yi spend
look at that.
Nearly 5 minutes just deciding on where to put his rook. You definitely don't want to put it back the whole way, because then you get in the way of this rook kind of joining on this square. So it would just be logical. Step back 1 square or 2 squares. Is he really considering stepping forward, going for this knight? Maybe. But it's not really worth spending 5 minutes on this kind of thing where black isn't even forced to capture and kind of take the sacrifice anyway.
This is one of the problems I think Wei Yi showed yesterday, right? I mean, he in quite obvious positions, his rook's attacked, you move it, right? Yeah. He was spending too long. And that later on, when he got these winning positions, he wasn't able to convert them because he'd used up all his time. So I don't know why he's doing it here. You know, I would have thought he'd learnt from the mistakes of yesterday, because it is quite an obvious position, really.
Yeah, and it's like you said, there will be consequences maybe in 30 moves' time from the 5-6 minutes that he's spent now. And a more experienced player like Levon or Magnus Carlsen or kind of what the top players in the world, they would just play according to their instincts. Retreat 1 square, retreat 2 squares, whatever. They're both fine. And then the critical moments will be ahead. I mean, this is where I would also waste maybe 2-3 minutes on the clock, but I don't think I would be spending 6 minutes on this one retreat.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem very impractical. I have a question for both of you. Do you think that this is an effect of Wei Yi perhaps playing so early in the morning and the tournament, of course?
Late at night?
Yes. Yeah, late. Is it not early morning at the minute?
One of the two, isn't it?
Huh?
I guess it depends how you...
You don't call it at the morning if you haven't gone to sleep and just woken up, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, OK. Late at night. Late at night in the... I always say in the early hours of the morning.
Yeah.
Midnight. Oh, that's definitely nighttime.
Yeah. I rarely go to sleep before midnight, so to me it's late night.
If you're saying early hours of the morning, it's like dawn when the sun's coming up. I mean, the sun's gone down for a while. It's definitely late.
When does it shift from night to morning for you, David?
Yeah.
At what time?
Morning starts at 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. That's a chess player's morning.
I would say like 6 a.m. 5 a.m. maybe. 5 a.m. is morning. Everything before that is late night.
Early hours of the morning is anything up to 10 a.m. Like early.
For me, early hours in the morning are like 1
a.m.
1 a.m. to 3, 4 a.m. and then it just becomes morning. And yeah.
I don't know what the hell's going on at the moment. I'm just sitting here dazed and confused.
Someone's got a very strange dictionary out there.
Yeah. I'm sure I'm incorrect, but that's my. I guess it's the kind of thing if you're early, but I'm always been an early
Exactly.
bird.
I think it depends if you're an early bird or if you like to stay up at night.
Yeah,
That's the difference.
I'm going to become an even earlier bird, actually.
Ooh.
Because, obviously David and myself are going to India and they're ahead in time. And we actually had Pragnananda and everyone talking about how they adjusted their hours in order to train for competitions. And I will be doing the same. So it won't be 6 a.m. in the morning. It will be 5.
Oh, when will games...
Jovanka, why? Why would you do that to yourself?
This is like what normal people do, David. Who do like office jobs and stuff, and a lot of people do this,
Have chess games at 3 p.m.
Yeah, because I was going to ask, when
True,
will the game
that's true.
start? 3 p.m.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there will be 3 hours
it?
ahead.
But that means you'd be waking up, what? I mean,
Nine,
that's 3.5 hours ahead.
9, and that's...
39, even that's risky.
I think you've
been awake for...
I think you've got to do what suits
7
you, haven't you?
hours,
I mean, I used to be a night person, but now I'm a morning person.
Oh,
so
you were able to actually turn it around.
Yeah, I'd probably stay up at night and get up early, to be honest. But I mean, yeah, I think it's just what suits you, really, isn't it? And you're a morning person, clearly, Jovanka, and imagine you're a night person, David, definitely. Yeah. So, yeah, but it's important to get the right routine in a tournament or whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, going back to Wei Yi. Playing
9 minutes.
Playing at this time. Yeah, I mean, first of all, why is he taking so long? It's just crazy. At this point, he's probably going to play a bad move because he's overthinking what should be a relatively simple position. It's crazy.
Super simple. Just
I think this is a record in the tour.
I mean...
Thinking for 9 minutes.
Yeah, I'm not even in a complicated position. It doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, the only thing I can be thinking of is he must therefore be looking at a crazy move because otherwise you just move the rook. But him playing at this time, I was thinking that, but he's the one and he's played a normal move. He's the one who's been prolonging the games anyway. And if he was tired, you would have thought he'd make the game shorter. So that's a bit of a surprise. OK, David, they banged out some moves here.
Yeah, I mean, very natural moves again. Black's queen did indeed come out, as we suggested, and after White's rook's doubled up now on this F-file, Black's remaining rook in the corner has swung to a very nice square. White's queen feels a bit uncomfortable on this kind of semi-open E-file. Big pressure on White's pawn centre. Wei Yi, again, very natural move. I mean, these are the first moves that come to his mind, so he could have this exact same position with 9 extra minutes on the clock. It's
Do you
strange.
think it's nerves?
It must be something, not trusting his instincts. Maybe he was calculating, as Simon said, a bit of a weird move, and then he decided against it. But in classical chess, when you have 2 hours on your clock, you have that luxury. You can kind of fall down the rabbit hole a few times and get carried away calculating variations. But rapid chess is a completely different type of animal. You need to save that 9 minutes for later. And if this game is decided, a bit like yesterday, in the time scramble or Wei Yi not having enough time on the clock, we can pinpoint that one moment. We'll say, OK, it was move 17, where he spent 9 minutes And he would love to have that one moment back again.
What's the most you spent on a move, David? I mean, because obviously you love
an hour, easily.
You love your deep thinks to understand the position, and it works very well for you. So, but over an hour, right?
Over an hour.
Over an hour.
Several
wow.
times, maybe.
Wow.
Yeah, I've done that early in the career when the time limit was different. I think it's a nice thing to do. But and Jovanka, you can roughly, have you ever done over an hour?
No, I don't think so. But I mean, I do remember, and I hate to bring up bad memories for you, Simon, but I do remember in our game, we played a very unusual time control where it was like 1.5 hours for all our moves with some added time. And I remember there was one point where I could have sacrificed. And I saw that there was a sacrifice, but I was like, this is not practical. I'm going to have to navigate things. I'm going to have to burn a lot of time on my clock in order just to make sure that the sacrifice is sound. And I was like, no. I'm going to play something else that I know is going to give me an advantage, and
Crush me.
Yeah,
And I was thinking also just a nice story about Bronstein. He was playing, he's a very famous player, David Bronstein, and maybe you guys have met him because he played in Hastings quite a lot. He was maybe one of the strongest players never to become world champion. He had a close match with Botvinnik. We see another move here, just the Queen going forwards with some night jump ideas. But in Hastings, they have a game it starts on the 1st of January. And he was playing on the 1st of January, and he was sitting there with the white pieces. And move one, and he just sat there for like 55 minutes on move one.
Yeah.
On move one. And he was like, everyone was like, what's he doing? He's just sitting there on move one. He hasn't played one move.
What?
So he obviously won a lovely game. I say, obviously, he's very strong. And someone says, well, what were you thinking of? And he goes, well, it's the start of a new year. I wanted to start the year good, and I felt like I should bring a night out. So he's like, I felt like, get the nights out. That feels right, better than bringing a porn out. So he's just thinking how he wanted to start his year.
Wow.
So he's like drifting off probably into this other world, and he decided to bring a night out because he thought that was a more funky way to start.
Yeah.
And I thought that's quite nice, actually.
I like it.
Did you know, Bronstein, on the subject of that, he was famous for doing this, actually. I mean, his teammates hated him because, he'd play for the Soviet Union and he'd do as Simon says, turn up, sit there and think for 20 minutes on the first move. And the teammates were like, just make a move, just get going. And, of course, he always found himself in time trouble as well. And it was kind of a little bit unforgivable, I think. Although I do like that story.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Wei, he is definitely spending time, taking down to 3 minutes. Will this be dramatic for him?
Back in the tank, and the best he can come up with is an exchange of queens. He's just dropped his knight back where it came from, just on the last move, and he's trying to get the queens off the board, but this can only favour black, surely. If you look at white's pawn structure again, white has an isolated A pawn, long-term factor. White has doubled C pawns, also a long-term factor, and those will kind of add up in black's favour once the queens disappear from the board. Maybe there was just nothing better. Maybe he had to do this because there was some serious pressure on white's centre anyway, and black's knight was also threatening to maybe jump into the position. But yeah, having spent all that time and having to play a move that doesn't really favour you strategically, it's not a good sign for Wei Yi.
Maybe a draw off as well here, because, OK, Aronian's not taken the draw, but had he stepped back with a queen, then we could have seen a repetition. But
how can Levon take advantage of this? So he has much more time on the clock. It seems like Wei Yi is a little nervous. He is thinking a lot in this game. How can Levon take advantage and maybe go for the win in this game?
He will try and go for the win, but he won't be able to do that anytime soon. He'll have to slowly build up. I mean, the advantages that black has here, they are very long-term. As we mentioned, the A-pawn, isolated. That could be a target for maybe the black knight or black rooks later on. These pawns are maybe more of a direct target. For example, not expecting it right now, but in the near future, black could fix these pawns by pushing his own pawn forward. These guys are never, ever moving again. And then slowly but surely, for example, you can bring a bishop to the edge of the board, put some pressure on this diagonal. You could swing a black rook across, try and force white to close the centre. If white closes the centre, white's pieces lose a lot of dynamism. Also, if you just look at the white pawns right now, they look very nice. They control a lot of squares. But remember, with great space comes great responsibility. And white's pieces are actually tied down defending, especially this pawn. White's rook is passive, defending it. White's bishop is passive, defending it. And white's knight also passive, defending defending this pawn as well. So, yeah, it does feel like Levon For example, he can start by just improving his pieces. He can step one rook forward, step the other rook behind, put even more pressure on this pawn. White's pawns here, they cannot really step forward without creating even more weaknesses as well. So targets here. Black's knight at some point I expect to kind of drop back and reroute itself into the centre, maybe in conjunction with this pawn move I mentioned. It's just a whole bunch of ideas for Black. And what's White doing in the meantime? Maybe White will start pushing forward on this side of the board, gaining some space there, but no real targets and no attack ever with the queens off. If White could have this position with the queens back on the board where Black's queen was passive, then he'd be happy. But that's why Levon Aronian went so active with the Black queen and why we saw the queens disappear. Right now, it's, in my eyes at least, it's kind of only Levon who can hope to have an advantage in this type of position. But of course, all of those plans I was highlighting, they're quite long-term, they're quite slow. So it's still a while before Levon can claim anything too big, before we can get too excited.
Yeah. But I have to say, you know, we saw several times where Yi shake his head. He's not happy with his position. He knows that he is going to suffer, and this is not good news. And whilst Levon is... Well, no, I spoke too soon. The bishop does take a step backwards. That was a little bit surprising to me. I didn't expect that move.
Yeah.
And, well, I was just going to share with you a few selfies because we are running a selfie competition and it's super exciting. And there we see Levon, Wei Yi, excuse me, double the rooks on the open line. And Rafa Schons is cheering for Aronian. He says, right from Brazil, big fan. And we also have a selfie from Reld Nabe, who says, watching while cleaning the kitchen.
Oh.
So he's not the only one cleaning, just like Levon. Not exciting, but with a brand new baby, you have to multitask all the times.
Congratulations.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And finally, Rob Durham is watching the show and enjoying a new TV.
Oh.
So there we see. We are on the big screen,
Yeah.
Kaja and David and Simon. And, OK, see some... let's go back to the game.
Yeah. Those rooks, are they dangerous? Two rooks in the same line?
They look nice and pretty, but everything they're attacking, I mean, they're only eyeing up a pawn right now, and that pawn is well fortified, well defended. I mean, I like that move for White, but I don't really see what's next. We were kind of slightly confused by the idea of Black's bishop retreat, Black's bishop going back to its start square. I guess the idea is just to stop White's pawns on the king side advancing forward. For example, Black's knight on the edge of the board could have been attacked by a white pawn, but Black's bishop from afar covers any potential white pawn advances. The question is, again, what next for Levon Aronian? I would just lift up Black's rook on the e-file 1 square. There we go. Just to defend the pawn that the white rooks are looking at. And also pretending maybe, or hinting at the fact that the black rooks might stack up on the e-file towards White's central pawns.
I think I heard you say before, David, you want to protect your pieces or your pawns 3 times.
Yeah, if 3 times, and then they're nearly always safe. If you can achieve that. So Black's f7 pawn that the white rooks were looking at was not a weakness at all. If a pawn's defended twice, occasionally there'll be a sacrifice on that square, or someone can break through on that square. But yeah, protect it 3 times and no chance of trouble.
OK.
Now Black's knight can jump in. What do we think about this last knight move by Wei Yi?
I think he's stuck for a plan, to be honest, so he just made a random move. And I agree with you, the knight can jump in. I mean, but the question is, what else is the knight going to do? I mean, is it going to perhaps take a step back, go to the e6 square, and then just go on a few more adventures until it finds the perfect location? Or...
I mean, the black knight is not on a perfect location right now, so I would...
It's tempting, isn't it? Just to put it to attack the bishop, and maybe you can actually ask some questions as to how White is going to defend one of those double pawns.
Yep. Of those white double C pawns, it's always the one in front that's the first target, so that pawn could become a target for the black bishop later. But Levon, I mean, he doesn't look fully focused right now. He was looking away for a while. He doesn't look as energetic as we saw yesterday when he got a small advantage, it was bang, 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 the moves were coming thick and fast.
Yeah, and he's getting a bit short of time as well here. I mean,
needs the seeds.
He does.
Catching up. So
I do notice the top players, where they spend most time in a chess game is always when it's the planning phase. With the calculation, even if it's quite complicated calculation, they can do it very quickly. because they structure their thoughts. They look at the checks, the captures, the threats, bang, 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 2, 3, 4 moves. They can see into the future. But when there's no forced reply for their opponent, they're thinking, oh, I could maneuver my knight to this square, I can move my knight to my bishop to this square. But in the meantime, the opponent has 4 or 5 moves, and then it's kind of a slower process of thinking.
He's still got that dodgy light, hasn't he?
Yeah, I just
There you
noticed
go.
it, yeah.
Sort it out.
And Wei has been looking a lot up in the air. What does that mean again, David, when they look up to...
Normally, if they look up kind of top left, it means they're remembering something. If they look just straight up, it's like, why? Where's the inspiration, please? Some inspiration. If they look right, it often means they're kind of bluffing normally, or like they're kind of like trying to work something out. I think the memory, at least, is the left side.
Okay.
Usually.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, I've always seen Hikaru is always looking up at the ceiling.
Yeah, I think he's... Yeah, with Hikaru, you never know, because half of it is kind of reaction, of course, like all chess players. Half is maybe a performance.
Yeah.
But, I mean, all the top players, they have these kind of little quirks, little habits.
I mean, it's part of the game as well, right? Play the psychological game as well.
Yeah, and Levon, well, his time is also ticking down. Now he's under 4 minutes on the clock. I mean, he has plenty of time, but he has to come to a decision soon. And he steps back with his knight. We were talking about the knight jumping forward. And, well, he's going to attack the pawn on e4.
Yeah.
I feel that this... maybe this is a draw offer?
Oh, in what way?
As in, the white knight might drop back. I don't know why I keep trying to find a draw in this position.
You're clearly loving this position, Simon.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that black is probably better, and Aronian won't take a draw if he's better. So, but I mean, again, if the white knight goes back, then the black knight has to move again. I can't see any. So, but maybe he's doing a Wei Yi. Maybe he's just repeating positions just to
See the knight's just dancing.
show his boss as well here. I mean, I don't think white's okay. This is interesting. Wei Yi has. He's gone straight forwards.
Yeah, so not playing for the draw, this pawn was attacked, going forward. And what's Levon going to do here? If you trade off this pawn, then suddenly it does look a bit scary. White's knight now on a great central square, and these rooks have targets. The black knight has to move. Maybe you could swap off the black knight now for the white knight. Maybe this is what Levon is banking on if the knights disappear. Still minimal danger for black. These pawns aren't great either, long term. But... yeah, big decision. If you don't take this pawn, then the only real option is to go back with the knight. I guess you could jump forward, but the thing is, here you're attacking with the white rook. You have to deal with a counterattack. Pawn takes pawn, hitting the black rook. It suddenly gets a bit complicated. Maybe black just keeps it simple, though, and takes a pawn back. And it's about whether this pawn is a weakness. It's an isolated pawn now. OK, Levon doesn't want to deal with that kind of issue. Bit surprising he spent all that time on a non-forcing move and then played quite a forcing move quite quickly. And, OK, as predicted, he's trying to get the knights off the board. So double attack, hitting the rook and the white knight. I'm expecting white now to just capture the knights. And the only option here, I guess, is to try and counterattack against the black rook. But no, that's too flashy. Take the knights off the board is what Wei Yi is thinking. And
pre-move as well, I think.
yeah, pre-move by Levon Aronian. He took back the knight here automatically because it was a safe pre-move. We say a safe pre-move because black's bishop landing on this square would never, ever happen unless black's knight was taken. So you don't want to pre-move something that, you know, your opponent could win some material. But here it's only legal. Bishop to g4 if the white knight captures.
I think you said there was a dramatic pre-move in the preliminaries. Was it Ariantari?
Yeah, I mentioned Ariantari. He had 3 legal moves in the position he was in check, but he'd pre-moved the only losing move to capture a pawn when actually his king should have just run away anywhere, safe from the check, and it would have been a draw.
So you really have to be sure before pre-moving.
And that cost him. He was so close to qualification.
Yeah.
And now, OK, I think Wei Yi's trying to get a draw now by just swapping off all the rooks. It's definitely only black who can be better here, just because these 3 pawns are not very flexible. They're not very mobile, as we say. The pawns, if they step forward, this pawn, for example, stepping forward, that would just ruin white's pawn structure. This one would ruin the dark squares. So we do see a trade, and the black rook get active. Yeah, the problem for Levon Aronian is, can you advance these 3 to beat white's 2 on this side of the board? Can you get the black king active? How do you target white's weaknesses here and here? Not easy. Still a lot of work to be done, but you guys, who would you take?
Levon's position, I mean, I had completely forgotten that black had a pawn majority on that side. So when you mentioned that plan, I was like, oh, yes, of course. Just utilise that extra pawn there. And as a bonus, just try to also keep an eye contact with the weak pawns. You know, try to do everything at once. I mean, I like Levon's position, and I think he has the time. He has the incentive.
So he's playing for the win.
Yeah, you know, this is a dream position to grind out. Okay, if you don't manage to do anything, great, your opponent defended well. But if you manage just to put a pressure on your opponent, and bearing in mind, Wei Yi has just over 2.5 minutes on the clock. Not that much time for many of us. So why not?
He set a nasty trap as well. There's a big threat on the board. Bishop takes pawn is actually a threat right now because, for example, the white king is suddenly overworked. It wants to take the black bishop, but it would lose control over the white bishop. So black would have won a pawn in the process. That being said, white actually stopped this threat by pushing a pawn in the centre, and Levon has actually lost 2 moves. He moved his bishop forward and then he moved it back again where it came from. But he's provoked white's pawn forward onto a light square. And this is relevant because now, if the rooks disappear, then black's king has a clear path on the dark squares into the position. So watch out for that kind of manoeuvre happening a bit later on. Because white's pawn has stepped forward, he's lost the integrity of his pawn structure, lost all control over the dark squares. But Wei Yi has a specific idea in mind by bringing his rook across. Now, to stop this idea of the king coming forward, I think he wants to just step his pawn forward with a sacrifice and get his rook into the game. This is how a lot of the top Chinese players play, actually. They try to solve strategic problems with tactics and with dynamism, and sacrificing a pawn here would be, I think, actually a great thing for white. So a small mini threat, pushing the pawn forward. Maybe this is one Levon missed, or underestimated at least.
A very crafty move, indeed. And there we see Levon thinking. Do you think, I was going to ask, do you think Levon will burn extra time on his clock just to deal with this, or will he just kind of continue as normal and just go, wow, it is what it is, well done?
Yeah, I don't think he wants to allow that white pawn from advancing, really. It seems like white could even get a better position, I feel, if that pawn goes up. So if I was Lev, I'd be thinking of either stopping that by moving my pawn 2 squares, but that comes with a lot of risk as well. It changes the strategic nature of the game, because I clamp down on those white pawns in the centre, so the double pawns become very weak, but I give white a very powerful passed pawn, protected passed pawn. That's only 3 squares from queening. But I'd be thinking along this way. Maybe I could even also push that pawn 1 square as well. Maybe do something like this. But I wouldn't really want to allow my opponent, if I was Lev, to do the plan that he wants to do. 1, it's never really good to allow your opponent to do a plan, and 2, it just looks like a good plan. So I need to, I'd rather stop it if I can somehow. I mean, there's other natural moves here as well, I'm sure. But I think this is a very good plan from Wei Yi, actually.
Yeah, this pawn push does look pretty menacing. I guess there are other ways. Maybe you could put your rook in the centre of the board, keep an eye on this guy. Or you could maybe, after white moved his rook across, rather than the black rook coming up, you could first hit the white rook. He has done this, and put your bishop in the centre of the board, I guess, just to guard this pawn. So just preventing white from stepping the pawn next to it up the board. He would lose the central pawn if he does that. I'm thinking that a bishop exchange here, I'm looking at rook exchanges, bishop exchanges. I think a rook exchange, bishop exchange would favour white in general, but in this exact situation, getting the bishops off the board would definitely improve the black rook. So maybe in this exact scenario, this is something Levon Aronian can try. But for example, if he parks his bishop in the middle of the board, okay, which he has just done, now there is this clear plan, remember, of the black king coming in. And what can white do? If white trades the bishops, maybe that favours black. If white trades the rooks ever, that definitely favours black, because black will control the dark squares. I don't really see any kind of exchanges that save white at the moment.
Yeah, it's a question of timing, isn't it? And yeah, white will have to start doing some active operations. And there he goes with the A pawn, and he's intending to soften up Black's pawn structure there on the left. And there's nothing that Levon can do, so he just returns to the original plan, which is just to bring the king to the centre.
Yep, it would make a lot of sense, at least for White, to trade off the A-pawn for one of Black's pawns, because that is an isolated pawn after all. It sits on the light square now, so you can't keep it there any longer. Why is Wei Yi thinking? He started a plan, you have to be consistent with it before it's too late. Just push that A-pawn forward again.
Yep.
It's a temporary pawn sacrifice, but if the B file comes open for White's rook, that would be fantastic. So step that pawn forward.
Yeah, it just seems to be overthinking things a little bit, Wei Yi, doesn't he? A little bit nervous in this first game, which, you know, and also you can't move this slowly when you've got 1 minute, 20 seconds left. They've both got 1 minute, 1.5 minutes basically. Lev's position looks quite nice to me. I mean, that king, as you pointed out, it's just coming in on the dark squares. So I think something like this is the right idea. If I was White here, I'd try to swap off pieces, swap off pawns, make some exchanges, get nearer to a draw. Yeah. So, I mean, the danger of this move is Black's rook now gets in, and having an active rook is really important in rook endings.
The bar is going up for Levon, and you did say that this would look good for the Black side.
That's the thing, Simon's right. In general, a bishop exchange does help White, just because rook endgames have this kind of drawish tendency in general. But in this exact situation, the Black rook is so active.
Well, he has to go c5 here. I mean,
has to trade off pawns, yeah.
Yeah, c5. Then you've got ideas of moving the pawn next to that. So I mean, that if he goes passive here, he's in loads of trouble, I think.
Black's king gets 2 moves to move into the centre. Yeah, as you mentioned, game over.
Yeah.
The problem is that Black's rook has gone rogue. And now you need to start calculating. Yes, he's played the pawn move, and this is the move that I was thinking Levon would play. Attack a pawn and, again, threaten to initiate chaos, because every single time Wei Yi will be considering what's going to happen after pawn takes pawn.
Yeah, I suppose the good thing for Wei Yi, he's got 4 pawns on the queen side, the left-hand side. Black's got 3 pawns. If he loses a pawn on that area of the board, but able to swap off all the pawns, it's a draw. So if you just see where the kings are, Black, you know, if you're just dealing with those pawns and nothing else on that side of the board, it's not enough to win. Rook endings are very often drawn. So maybe that could be something that is going to save Wei Yi later on, maybe.
I agree, Simon.
Just if he can manage those exchanges. But they're both now getting under a minute. So it's... and here we see the first exchange happen. Black King's still coming in, though, isn't it? That Black King is still stepping in, but...
Do we think White's rook has to go active now, or does White's king have to go active?
Definitely go active, I think, now,
With the rook, yeah.
I mean...
Just abandon everything. Just White's rook has to get to the 7th rank.
Take your chance now.
Exactly.
Have to gamble.
Create some pass pawns, and he's done that.
So he's actually 2 pawns down currently, Wei Yi, but the White King is suddenly super active, and the White rook is super active. So that's a good endgame idea.
Yeah. And a very interesting move from the Chinese player, because here, if Levon were to get super greedy and go for a 3rd pawn, well, actually, White's pawn in the middle of the board is going to be a strong one. It's only 3 squares away from queening, and it will have the assistance of the rook and the king in its promotion hopes.
This is odd from Levon Aronian. He's just given up a pawn with check, but he has got the Black King active temporarily. So White has options here. White has 2 pawns he could capture, the A pawn, the F pawn, or he could just slide back the White rook 1 square and check back the Black King. That might be why.
It's confusing here, right? I mean, these choices. Yeah. I mean, you give the check. I think giving the check's good, you know, to try and force the Black King to a worse square, right?
Yeah, because if Black gets time to step the Black rook back 1 square and check the White King, White's King is the one forced backwards. I mean, I'm just really surprised what Levon's done, to be honest. I think he could have played for a win in a far safer way. Now it's just...
Could lose this one, couldn't he? Because that white pawn in the centre of the board is so strong. If the White rook can now get active, maybe going to the left-hand side, you know, like he's played now. I mean, this is we saw something similar, didn't we, in another game? I think it was yesterday, where it was just that 1 pawn that White had was so scary, and it won the game for. I think it won the game for someone.
But I think this is great defensive technique from Levon, and I think he's doing this, but also at the same time kind of keeping that draw in the pocket, because now that white pawn in the middle doesn't have the aid of its king. So he could, if he wanted to bail out, could just start attacking the pawn in the middle.
Yeah. Maybe this is what's going to happen now. We could, see those exchanges.
I'm also feeling the heat a little bit. If I were playing black, I would be like, OK, just bail out now. This feels like it's gone wrong.
Yeah.
White's gotten too active.
Definitely lost control as Aronian. But he is currently a pawn up, so, OK, going for White's G2 pawn now on the second rank. That's slightly surprising, I've got to say. He's just kind of making a useful waiting move, I guess. So, again, as you guys mentioned, if that black A pawn falls, as soon as the white rook leaves the 6th rank, black's king comes into the centre. So Wei Yi also waits and just offers a pawn trade. Probably very sensible. The more pawns that disappear, the closer you are to a draw.
Lots of pawns getting exchanged off, right? And, you know, that... You have to say the draw is very likely at the moment, just because there's not going to be many pawns left on the board.
It feels like a huge missed opportunity for Levon. I think he initiated all these forcing moves, just one move too soon. Yeah, I'm thinking back to a previous position, and I think black's king could have got much more active than it currently is.
But wait 1 second here. I mean, suddenly the white king has taken a step back. It's lost kind of coordination with the pawn and the rook. And I feel that this is... OK, no, I stand corrected. Levon has decided to repeat moves. The king is back on the 4th row.
OK, but black's rook is on a new square now, so can black's rook get greedy? Go and capture white's H pawn, maybe?
Yep. Oh, I'm not sure about this position anymore. I mean, it's getting wild.
Who are you liking it for, then?
I have to say I'm liking it for Levon.
OK.
But at the same time, I feel that Wei Yi's king and rook are so active that it probably will end in a draw.
It's just really instructive in general what Wei Yi did. He gave up 2 pawns. He was 2 pawns down for a while, but he just went active with his king and rook. Compare it to a few moves before when white's king and rook were passive. It was level material, but he was suffering. So I think that's a lesson for everyone at home, and one that, I mean, we'll take away from this game. Just go active.
Surely a draw now. Isn't this the 3rd time? Or
it's the 2nd time we've seen this position now.
So if he goes check here, it will be a draw.
No, but he's gone for it. He's taken the pawn. And, OK,
he's using the Wei Yi strategy of repeating position twice, teasing us and then playing for the win.
Well, he did say that he wanted to take inspiration from the youngsters. And I guess that's what he's doing.
Yeah.
The problem for black is, again, 2 pawns up, but look at the black pawns. They're all isolated. They're not connected. One by one, they should start to drop. That's the first one.
White's rook seems to be an ideal square there as well. I mean, it can always grab a pawn at any moment. It cuts the black king off. White's central pawn is very good. So, again, this still seems like pretty dead draw to me, really.
Look at Levon. He just leaned back. He realises now that the winning chances have pretty much disappeared. Still a good result for him, a draw, we've got to say, is black.
Yeah, that's true.
He only needs 2 out of 4 today.
So it's when he moved his rook in and he could have moved his king in was maybe the slight missed opportunity, but we can have a look at it later anyway.
Quite possibly.
Yeah.
But, yeah, OK, he's running with 1 pawn. Is Harry going to win the day, do you think, Simon?
Nah, not in this one. I don't think so. I think White's... I mean, how's White going to do it? I don't know. Could you... I mean, I'd like to get my king a bit more centralised, but there's an annoying check, because if I can move the white king 1 square to the left, then I'm threatening some very strong moves there. So he's kind of moved it diagonally, so it can't be checked. Yep. And now there's just a threat of perpetual check with the white rook. And, well, they're only going to have 2 pawns each anyway, so, I mean, I just can't see this being lasting much longer, really.
Yeah, and these rook's pawns, so the A and H pawns, in some endgames, for example, knight endgames, they're so powerful, but in rook endgames, they're just so easy to stop. And Levon Aronian, there we go, shaking his head. I think we'll see the draw happen now. Pretty much white's rook will just go and grab a pawn. It actually has a couple of pawns to choose. It takes the most obvious pawn, and, OK, Levon's king moves. White's rook will just find any safe square.
He could push the pawn, maybe.
No, he can't.
Oh, no, he can't.
He can't. That would be a trap,
Got cheapoed.
So he can't get clever here, where his rook is attacked. This pawn is stepping forward. It looks like white's about to make a new queen, but unfortunately, black's rook can stop it. You can't slide across yet, because white's king covers that square. First, you give a check, hitting the king, and next move, you slide across, and you're just in time to stop this pawn. So, OK, of course, he spots that, and he doesn't get hasty, but there's a threat now, maybe, to push forward. Levon should really force the draw now, though, just before it's too late.
Yeah.
And he only has 22 seconds on the clock, and Wei Yi has 12, 10, 9. It's ticking down.
Whose pawn is faster? The answer is neither. White's rook just stops this pawn. OK, small trap here for Levon Aronian that he set on Wei Yi. If this pawn was captured, we would see a check. And suddenly, after a rook trade, this black pawn does win the day. It's impossible to stop. So that was a small trap, but Wei Yi, of course, spotted that as well. These guys are too good to fall into one-move blunders. He drops his rook back. And now, after this rook move, I'm expecting to see the white pawn start pushing forward. This will act as a distraction, and White's rook will, meanwhile, gobble up one or both of these pawns. It should be a draw, but risking stuff.
Yeah. 7, 6. Clock is going down. OK, the pawn pushes forward, as David's indicated. And, well, the race is kicked off, but it is a race that probably will just result in trades.
Yep.
5. But it's making me nervous, actually, watching them run down the clock so much. And Wei Yi is... Yeah, I know. He keeps surprising us at every turn. Just when we think it is a draw, he makes a different type of move, and the game continues.
You have to be really careful as Wei Yi now. You have to get your rook behind that black H-pawn. It's 2 squares away. Yeah, suddenly it's a bit more complicated. It should still be a draw, of course. The pawns can be stopped by the opponent's rooks. But Wei Yi under 10 seconds the whole time, playing with fire.
Yeah. But now we're going to see it.
Well, is this so clear? I mean...
Yeah.
Probably.
The black rook is his turn to put the rook behind the passed pawn.
And if you play that, isn't black still... Black still seems to be pushing to me here.
Why didn't Wei Yi push this pawn a few moves ago? I mean, it should still be a draw, maybe, but...
But you might win a pawn with black now. The black king is active, and white's pieces can't do anything. So
has he? I don't think he's lost on time. He may. Clock's at 0.
Is he lost on time?
Has he lost on time?
I don't think he lost on time, but
the bar he's also blundered.
Look at the bar!
He's just lost a pawn.
What happened? What's going on? Did he lose on time?
What has happened?
I think it's a mouse slip.
What happened there? How did he mouse slip?
He's just lost.
He wanted to defend his pawn.
What a dramatic finish to the first game. It looks like Wei Yi has lost this. Levon Aronian taking the lead. Oh, wow. Heartbreak for Wei Yi. Both players, they seem a little confused. Well, Wei Yi seemed just devastated.
We're confused as well. Was that losing on time? Because he only had 5 seconds at the end there. Surely he wouldn't resign in a position like this. Surely he would at least play on a few more moves, even if he's blundered. It's really surprising, kind of out of the middle of nowhere. It was just completely drawn 2 moves ago. He self-destructed Wei Yi. It was just the momentous occasion, the nerves of a final, something, but Levon takes it again.
Wow, a long game playing for 50 minutes. It looked like a dead draw. Something dramatic happened. Levon Aronian takes the lead in the second match, putting Wei Yi in a dramatic must-win situation. He cannot lose the next game. If Levon wins that, then he will be the winner of the tournament. Wei Yi cannot lose that, and he now has to win 2 games to take it to tiebreaks. But David, what happened in this game?
I'm still struggling to understand, Kaja, because if we just show the position right near the end, this should be a dead draw. It's check here. Levon's king moved. White's rook came across. Very sensible, just stopping the black pawn. And in this position, Wei Yi seemed to freeze. His clock suddenly ticked down. It all went wrong, and he made a losing mistake. Here, it should still be a draw. White's pawn is attacked, so just push it forward. And, for example, if the black king takes this pawn, it looks like white is just in time in a few different ways. But, for example, if you just step forward with the king, black is struggling here to win because there is a trick. If black's pawn steps forward, then white can give up his rook for the black pawn and distract away this black rook. If the rook takes, white makes a new queen with check. So black's rook has to move back. And we would just see all the pawns disappear. There's actually several different ways that Wei Yi could have achieved this position, rook versus rook, dead draw. But the blunder and kind of the panic set in this position after black's rook came across. He didn't play the most obvious move, which would draw. Instead, he brought his rook back 1 square. And after king takes pawn, he resigned, or he lost on time, we're not sure. And the reason is simply black has 2 pawns versus white's 1. 1 is easily stopped. And, for example, if we see a situation where a couple of pawns are traded, this is an easy win for black. This pawn will win the game because white's king is cut off on the d-file. Basic rook endgames, but Wei Yi losing that one. Really surprising stuff.
Absolutely. Oof, that is a bad start to the day for Wei Yi. He needs to get some energy. He has to win a couple games to be able to take this to tie breaks. We're going to now catch our breath after a dramatic finish to that game. Game 2 will start in a little over 10 minutes, and we will be back in a few minutes.
B3, A5. What do you think about this opening? Honestly, what do you think?
You don't have to play knight c3. We can actually put a piece on d2, which is better because then we avoid the potential doubling of our c pawns.
What you have to understand about practical endgames as a whole is that just like in the middle game or the opening, you cannot rely solely on these general considerations.
Quality isn't the first thing that comes to mind when you think about chess and esports, but it affects our focus, decision-making, health, sleep, and more. What's in the air you breathe? Find out with Air Things.
When I saw her for the first time, it was love at first sight. I love how rich and complex she is, how sharp and principled her first steps, how graceful her movement. Paris is a city of love. Come to find my love for the French defense.
It's really crazy that apparently almost as many people play paddle in Spain as there are total people in Norway. I think chess had boomed during the pandemic, also with Queen's Gambit and such. Obviously not in the same numbers.
Yo creo que no deberían ayudar a hacer una serie. Estaría mal. La verdad que sí, tiene bastante similitud porque el pádel no es solo darle fuerte a una pelota y ganar el punto. Al final tú buscas los puntos débiles del rival, tus puntos fuertes, que tirar una bola para que la siguiente te venga un poco más cómoda a ti. Entonces siempre es una táctica de yo te domino a ti, tú me dominas a mí, para buscar quién puede ganar el punto al final, no al primer golpe, sino quizá al décimo o al duodécimo golpe.
I think there are several points that are a bit similar. I think like controlling the right areas and positioning yourself correctly is a similarity. But what I found most of all is the patience. Because it's, as you said, it's very easy, I think, in paddle, at least for like a beginner like me, that, yeah, you want to hit as hard as possible, and then you just get hit by the counter attack. So like finding the right moment, right moment to strike is important, and then you have to like always improvise. But I guess it's a bit of the same, that you get hit with an unexpected shot, and then you have to react and change your plan completely. So to be quick in your mind is is always important.
Exacto, totalmente. Yo creo que las similitudes se ven ya a nivel profesional, porque quizá a nivel amateur, bueno, los amateurs dicen, bueno, le pego fuerte y tal. O en el tema ajedrez, yo no juego con el cronómetro que tengo que darle rápido, yo me pongo a pensar, a ver qué tengo que hacer y todo eso. Entonces yo creo que ya cuando llega a un nivel más competitivo ya empiezan a haber más semejanza entre ambos. Yo creo que la vuelta de Puma al pádel creo que ha sido más que sobresaliente. La verdad que los deportistas necesitamos siempre estar acompañados con una buena marca, de buen material, y la verdad que estoy muy contento de que Puma haya confiado en mí para crecer junto a ellos. Y tanto el textil como las zapatillas como la pala yo creo que están hechas perfectas para mí y todo el material es muy bueno y más que sobresaliente.
I like the profile, they're really cool, but most of all I like the clothes and the shoes especially are awesome, and of course the people as well. It's a very good team.
Welcome back to FTX, road to Miami in 7 minutes. Game 2 will start if Levon Aronian wins that game. He will be the winner of the tournament, and he will have the white pieces where he has to cook up something fantastic for that game now. But before that happens, we're going to take a trip to Madrid, a park where Magnus Carlsen recently played the best female player of all time, Judith Polgar.
Hi, I'm Judith Polgar, and I played the game in the Retiro Park in Madrid against Magnus Carlsen. Check it out.
What do you want, 3?
Sure.
Here, put some cold water.
I started my career in the park.
Yeah.
You too?
No, me. I was never a park player, as Gary would say.
I was. I can't believe that I just came to the park. I play against Magnus. You're prepared for everything. So
I'm prepared for everything.
I can stick to my stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously, I play d4 as I do all the time. I see you're also following the candidate. And I was wondering what Magnus wants to play, and he plays the Powell's. The weapon, what I was playing all my life.
Are you going to play old school or the new one?
Sorry, I'm an old-timer.
You're an old-timer. It's disappointing.
And he's smiling. He thinks he's going to beat me, crush me.
Classic. This is really classic.
Hey, what a nice audience we have. I play f3 first, just to make sure on e4 there's no problem.
These lines, I don't know.
It's new fashion to go to parks to play chess. Yeah? b5, so he starts attacking already. But of course, this is all theory, which I don't remember anything anymore. No idea. I stopped playing chess 7 years ago. And now I'm going to make a move which I thought I will regret.
This was a thing even 7 years ago,
After Magnus played what he did, because after e5, knight g4 is possible, so I cannot capture it because my rook is hanging. So I thought for a second that I'm going to be losing very fast. But then I had my creativity and immediately I started to continue my attack. And I was really happy that the knight is on the side of the board on h6.
Yeah, it's a really bad knight.
So I thought I had at least some compensation.
All about it, not like you've been playing games like that, like, but it's good in your case, somehow the knight.
And I'm threatening to take on g7 with my rook. So this is why Magnus is hesitating. How is it possible that she's blundering a pawn and then...
That's all. Maybe it is clear. Maybe I'm just worse.
Bishop f8, I was really happy. What kind of move is this? You have to go back to f8, become a castle.
Or what?
And then I was wondering, what to play, bishop e4, I think it was good. And now the bad move will come. And probably b4 is the best move to kick my knight away. He went rook c8, I was wondering for a few seconds, and then I realized that I have a winning move. I couldn't believe it myself.
Oh my god!
Oh my god!
Oh my god!
The picture!
That was his helpmate.
It happens. Even the biggest guys can blunder in
No,
one.
but Magnus is a gentleman.
And Magnus is not happy, but he's taking it easy.
Complete selfmate. Oh wow.
This goes on Reddit. Wow.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay, no applause yet. I'm gonna fight.
So far, I'm doing better, that's all.
Oh my god.
What to do? How to save it? Is it possible to save it? He knows that he cannot
Especially
save
when I
it.
blunder
But of course, he's a fighter.
Wow.
good stuff.
Yeah, this is really good.
Lack of experience.
Lack of experience in Sicilian.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, need some training.
And he still wants to be thinking
Okay,
if maybe he
play.
can save the game. And also, finally, the knight can come to f5, which is a great outpost for the knight. Finally, he has a good
Finally, my knight is okay.
Position is beautiful. This queen is missing.
Unfortunately, queen is too much, so Magnus resigns.
Oh my god. Ah.
You want one more?
Oh, that's fine. I think it's better for the story if it's like this.
There might be a chapter 2 one day.
Yeah.
If you like my game against Magnus and you want to improve your chess, go to chessable.com/Judith and you will find my master courses. It will make you a better player.
Look at that, Judith Polgar beating Magnus Carlsen in the parks of Madrid. She's so cool, Judith Polgar.
She's very cool.
Yeah.
I mean, she's such a fierce attacker. You know, I've had the pleasure of analysing with her and commentating with her, and boy, is she impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, I really wish that she would come back to competitive chess and just show everyone what she can do, because she's so fierce.
She is so fierce. Now, speaking of chess in parks and streets, there's something really cool that's been going on in London today, David, a chess fest.
That's right. So for the second year in a row in Trafalgar Square, so central London, people have been gathering. Last year, there were 10,000 people who popped in throughout the day. This year, I think several thousand as well. And it's not just chess tournaments going on, chess kind of lectures, chess demonstrations. We've also been seeing a giant chess game with human actors, and they've been acting out a game from the 1972 Fischer match against Spassky. It's been really dramatic there. We see some of the actors who were kind of acting as the chess pieces in that famous game. Last year was, I think, Alice in Wonderland themed. This year, I'm not sure the exact theme, but either way, also grandmasters giving kind of simultaneous displays, playing dozens of people at the same time. Big day to be a chess fan, especially in London.
Fantastic. That is so cool. All right, well, game 2 just started, and if Levon Aronian wins this game, he will win the FTX Road to Miami. What's happening on the board?
So we see the modern defence, one we very rarely see at the top level these days, because it is so risky, it is really provocative as black. Black's not fighting for the centre at all. White has this nice pawn centre. Instead, black just kind of creeps forward, puts his bishop on a decent diagonal, and, OK, this last move by Aronian, this shows he just wants to play solid chess. What do you think of this opening choice from Wei Yi, Simon?
Yeah, I mean, we once had a bit of a clash in the modern, didn't we? That was one of the only times I managed to get something against you. It clearly indicates that he's going for the win. He knows it's a risky opening. In general, the setup that Black's played is very cramped. You give away, look at White's centre. White's centre is fantastic. 2 pawns there, controlling, a lot of squares. So that's why it's risky, because you're just, you're probably just slightly worse. But he's got to take risks now, having 2 blacks left, and he's got to get 2.5 at least out of the last 3 games. So he needs to win one of those games at least with the black pieces, and that is something that I'm sure Lev will be quite happy to see as well, because he could clinch it in this game.
And I just wanted to mention that little pawn move that Levon Aronian played, it's his pet variation. He's played it 3 times before, 3 victories, and he will have fond memories here. And now the game is developing with black challenging in the centre. And this knight coming to the E7. Oh, my fingers. This knight coming to the E7 square. That's a little bit unusual, actually. It's not the most popular line.
Yeah, black's knights are a bit passive, I guess. Some, at least, foothold in the centre for black. He's hoping that white closes down the centre at some point. That would really be nice for black. If white closes the centre, black has more flexibility. Black can push his own pawns forward on the king side, perhaps. But Levon is not going to break the tension. He's going to keep those 2 white pawns side by side for as long as possible. Rerouting his knight, meanwhile. Levon loves this setup. He just loves putting a bishop in the centre. We've seen it in the kind of e4, e5 type of openings. We've seen it in the Sicilian. He finds ways to do this as white. And we see it now in the modern defence. Just this kind of knight duo perfectly poised.
Yeah, I mean, if you put black's pawn in the centre back 1 square, the opening is actually what we call a hippo. And the general rule is any opening named after animal is rubbish. So if you can think of can anyone think of a good animal that's actually a good opening?
Dragon.
That's rubbish.
Pelican.
And the dragon's not really, it's a mythical animal, I suppose.
Pelican.
Yeah, all right, OK. All right, you're not supposed to use 2 examples that quick just to shout me down. Yeah, pelican, yeah. OK, that's enough. That obviously didn't work very well.
To explain why it's a hippo, normally if Black's pawn were just 1 square back, Black would be kind of wallowing in his first 3 ranks. Like a hippo would do in the water or in mud. They just wait and wait and wait, and then when their prey comes forward, when their prey comes too close to them, then they come out of the water and grab you.
Is it one of your favourite openings, David?
One of my favourite, especially in blitz chess, speed chess. I think that's super effective if your opponent isn't familiar with the plans. But also, look at this kind of symmetrical setup. It's just easy to pre-move, especially in online blitz. That's why I love it.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, a couple of developments have happened, so the centre has been closed. Black's pawn came forward, and Levon said, OK, give me the space. Grabbing the space, blocking this bishop, and we're going to maybe see a King's Indian type of setup. We've seen reminiscent, we've seen similarities here with the King's Pawn openings. Now we see similarities with the King's Indian defence, where Black has this setup, the bishop in front of his king, and he wants to break out on the king's side. But this is actually not normally a good idea when when the 2 white knights sit on these squares. If you play on this side of the board, the white knights will be ready to actually attack the black king. So, yeah, computers always hate this type of structure when white gets a space advantage with these 2 against maybe these 2. The white pawns just clamp down on everything, and Levon says, OK, I don't really care, I'm just going to step back. If you want to explode open the position and go on an attack, I will just take your pawn. And, for example, if black recaptures, the white knight starts leaping forward, some attack maybe against the black king. Levon actually plays some of these setups as black himself as well, so he's very familiar with the types of ideas. And in the current position, what do you think, Simon, Jovanka? Are we going to see Wei Yi go all in right now? Forward.
I suspect so, I have to say. And the idea that you highlighted is very instructive, because I know a lot of us, and surely a lot of viewers at home, will always feel this fear about the black pawn advancing, and will feel a sense of panic. And to have a kind of a remedy to this pawn break is quite handy to have in your arsenal.
Yeah, I mean, white's knight could also come this way, and this pawn is attacked 3 times. It just feels really weak for black, to be honest, compared to a normal King's Indian, where white's maybe distracted on the other side of the board already. Normally, black's bishop as well is placed slightly better. Here, it's just staring at a pawn.
Yeah.
It just feels a bit loose, so I'm not sure whether now's the moment, but if you don't play it now, what else do you do for Wei Yi? Big question.
Yeah, big question. I suspect some more manoeuvring, some more kind of mysterious moves might happen, and then, as David says, there will be a pawn break. Has to be that way. And, well...
That Wei Yi. It has to be that Wei Yi.
Wei, yeah. He's got such a great name for pun.
Yeah.
And anyone else who has a great name, well, apart from Wesley So?
Wesley So, yeah. Ding, of course.
There must be lots of good names out there for puns. My mind's gone blank.
Yeah.
Well, Duda has the song.
Yeah.
Duda.
Sometimes I say howler, but yeah. So that's quite nice.
I have a cousin who has that DJ Howler. That's his name.
Really?
Yeah. You can find his music somewhere out there.
Is he on Spotify?
I think so.
OK, I'll check it out.
DJ Howler.
But, yeah, at the moment, this is not the way that he would have wanted the final to go. And it just depends. I think I would be so tempted to play this move now, or at least it maybe expand on this side of the board. Potentially, you could argue that black's pawn can come forward and you can try and create a square for your knight, but it is a bit weakening.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say that the setup the whites adopted here is actually really worth remembering against the hippo, because the hippo is actually it's a pretty underrated opening, and it's going to be my next chessball course, because I play it a lot as black as well, and I remember Luke McShane, talking about English players. He often plays it in must-win situations because you keep all the pieces on the board. But the way that white's set up is really, really good setup, actually, because you kind of stop a lot of these breaks. Those knights are nicely positioned. You can use your H-pawn. I mean, if you can move the H-pawn to, all the way up there, you get an ideal situation because then one break you've got to stop is that one that David has demonstrated multiple times, that F-pawn, this one here coming forwards. This is really the only way that black can get sufficient counterplay. I think without that move, black is just cramped and white's always better. So yeah, just remember to set up if you're playing against a hippo. Is bringing the knight around, putting the bishops like this, I think is a great way to play. But yeah, I mean, it's tough, yeah, because he needs to do something in this position, because white's got many, and he has played it.
He has
I think, understandably.
Yeah, and okay, he takes back with the knight. So the idea of the pawn capturing and maybe white's knight coming to the edge of the board, trying to break through on this square. Maybe this was just a bit too scary, but he has prevented that with his last move. Knight takes pawn. If we'd see a knight trade now, then neither of white's knights can jump forward. One is gone, and this square is no longer available because the black queen covers it. So white's knight is a bit stuck. And actually, black has great chances here because these two pawns are very nicely placed, very flexible. They can step forward. So I don't think we'll see a knight exchange from Levon Aronian. The reason they used to tell me when I was young that every Russian schoolboy knows you should capture with a pawn on f5. You should capture towards the centre to control all these squares. So the reason this is the case is because in the current situation, Wei Yi took with a knight. Clearly in Russia, they teach things different to China. But here, white has a really nice outpost on the e4 square. And it's an eternal outpost. The white knight can plant itself here, and this will never, ever get kicked away. It also attacks some really nice pawns. But meanwhile, OK, it looks like we're mixing all the openings because white's pawn stepped forward and black maybe trying to break down this pawn chain. He's just given up a pawn, and this is reminiscent of the Benko gambit.
Oh.
So we've kind of had modern that turned into like a hippo, that turned into like a king's pawn opening, that turned into king's Indian, that's now turning into a Benko gambit. It's like all the openings thrown into one.
Chameleon. Yeah. And what do we think about Wei Yi changing the nature of the position? Because now it's become very, very dynamic.
Yeah, I quite like it. I mean, he's got to win. I think both players are playing quite sensible. Lev, I think, has done the right approach. Your opponent has to win with black. Let him over-push. Let him extend himself, which he has to do. And Wei Yi has sacrificed a pawn, but he's got all the pieces on the board, some dynamic play, and some sort of typical Benko ideas, I guess. White must be better, though. Saying all that, white must be better in this position, definitely.
Pawn up and nicely centralised pieces that we've been talking about. OK, he pushes this pawn forward. That's really risky. But I guess his idea is if the white pawn steps forward to attack his knight, he can actually safely just play pawn takes pawn because there is a pin on this file. The black knight cannot be captured because the white rook would drop on a1. Wow, so complicated.
Yeah. This is a big game. I mean, this could end the match, this game now, because Lev has gone for this type of position where Wei Yi has overextended himself, but Wei Yi's kind of now in a really all-in situation.
Yeah.
And I mean, white is better, but it's very tactical, very complicated here.
Yeah. And it seems like Levon Aronian is just so not phased, He's got...
Barely thinking.
I know. And this position is so wild. I mean, it would have been a good investment of time just to just think about the position for a few minutes and decide where the pieces are. But, well, Simon said he likes swinging rooks, or rook overs, rovers. And there we have one as well. The rook steps forward to the a3 square, maybe threatening to go all the way to the right. And again, such a crazy position.
Yeah. Are you proud of that move, Simon? Is Levon worthy of joining the...
Don't say that.
I don't say that. I meant like
sorry,
Rover Club.
Sorry, David, can you just say that one more time, a bit slower? Can Aronian Lev join the Swingers Club? Well, we haven't...
If it swings over and attacks the black king.
Can you do me a favour later? Can you ask Lev that on the interview, please, David? Can you do it for me, David?
Rover.
Last day, can you ask him if you can join the Swingers Club?
We'll see.
I do like that move. It's very typical in this situation, and it's just I mean, the rook has that opportunity which David has beautifully demonstrated there, coming all the way to the king's side.
For example, yeah.
And you often find that it's black's king which will end up being in a lot of trouble later on, and maybe that line you just demonstrated, well, OK, the queen covers it, but you get the general idea. It's just a good move to improve your position, improve your pieces. Yeah. And it's now back on black He's a pawn down, and he's got to demonstrate something here. I mean, he can't take the pawn in the middle. I mean, that's a poison pawn. What else can black play here, David, or Jovanka?
Yeah.
Good question. This would walk into a pin, as you mentioned, Simon, and if you take the other way, then I guess the knight is destabilised, and once it moves, the bishop in the centre will be loose. Yeah, what else do you do?
Can you see an idea, Jovanka? Because I'm struggling
to find a move, you know, because, you know, I was thinking initially, yes, you know, but the knight can just jump forward, attack the rook. But that's not a helpful move either, because the knight is totally unstable. Once the rook moves, the knight is forced back, so we can probably strike that option from the list. But then again, what else to do? Because black's pieces on the right side, his king is so vulnerable, and you can see it there. He took a step back for the nut.
Yeah, but now David's move surely is so tempting.
I mean,
here.
just look at that light squared bishop that white has. That is a killer piece.
I mean, give up your centre. It doesn't matter if you're going to checkmate. And look, the white bishops are both pointing towards black's king. The white knights are both hanging around black's king. The white rook can swing over, and the white queen. Now, that's nearly every single piece is suddenly homing in on the black king, and you're a pawn up.
Yep.
So pawn up with the attack at the moment. This is if he plays that move, I mean, doesn't that move just look fantastic?
It's beautiful, I've got to say. I don't really see a reason why not to play this move. How do you even defend this pawn as black? It's not easy at all. It's attacked twice now from the knight and from white's bishop. If it steps forward, then you leave some really weak squares in your camp. The white knight can jump in. We know what we say about the knights in f5. Yeah, I mean, if this pawn is defended by the black rook, the other white knight jumps in to attack it, getting ready to swing the white rook across. This gains time. How else do you defend this pawn? Do you have to slide the black queen across, for example? But this looks a bit kind of shaky as well, with the black queen now on the same file as the white rook. It feels like all the tactics will work for white. White's knight can jump in maybe into the centre. I mean, just again, even at the cost of a pawn, even if black can defend everything, just swing the white rook across. Feels like a pack of cards right now, just a tower of cards ready to collapse for Wei Yi. The computer says +4, which I'm a bit surprised by that it says that much, but that must mean there's already a knockout blow for white. And I mean, if this isn't it, then what else? It just looks fantastic.
No, I just checked the computer evaluation. That knight move to the edge of the board, it is a winner.
It wins. Yeah, it's just, and it's so natural. It's the first move that came to your mind, right, Simon?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you were showing it, David, for a couple of moves already now. Yeah. I mean, you just increase the pressure on black's weakness. I mean, it's a move that Lev will obviously see here. I mean, you can't miss such an obvious move when you set up like this. There's probably other good moves here as well. Yeah. You can push the pawn to that square. You know, similar idea on the light squares, but they just don't look as strong, do they? Why not create a threat?
And it would be a consistent, like, logical follow-up. It's basically just flowing from what he did in the opening. He put his knights on this side of the board. He lifted his rook up the board. He put his bishops on these attacking squares, like you said. And the next logical, consistent follow-up would be, OK, let's go for the attack. So it's kind of, he's done step 1, step 2, step 3. It would make sense to make step 4 now and go for the black king.
Do you think he's, because Levon Aronian has taken a pause, do you think he's just calming his nerves? Because obviously when you are winning, you get into a state of overexcitement.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think you mentioned, Jovanka, you asked him, do you get nervous? And he's like, no. So, I mean, and the way he, you know, his body language does kind of indicate to me that he really doesn't get that nervous. Maybe he's seen some other tempting options here. That's the only other thing I can think of, why he isn't playing that move immediately. Oh, right, well, that's very surprising. He didn't play the knight over there.
So logical and didn't seem to have any drawbacks. But instead, he kind of semi-defends this pawn. It is still attacked 3 times, so a bit of calculation required here. Can black take this pawn? I'm guessing with the bishop, because I'm a bit worried about getting pinned along this diagonal. So maybe taking with the bishop right now. At least black gets, if black can survive, I'm not 100% sure he can over the next few moves. It looks very loose for black, but if he can, then he has 3 mobile central pawns to at least try and push later. I'm not a massive fan of this one as white.
No, definitely not. I mean, it's it's not a very aggressive move. He should have gone for the more aggressive move, definitely. Maybe that is a sign of nerves, that one.
Yeah. It's like you said, he played basically instantly, Levon, up to this point. He built up a winning position. He spent barely 1 minute on his clock. And then finally he slowed down, spent 3-4 minutes, and not the best move. Not the most, at least not the most consistent either. So, very surprising.
Yeah, surprising. And whilst the players are thinking and Wei Yi is considering whether he can grab the pawn or not, well, we are having a selfie competition. And we are asking you how to show us how you're watching us in the tour. And John Brazel says that he is watching the show from on this glorious Sunday morning in the park.
Oh,
you know, so, and he's also cheering for Levon Aronian. Big Levon fan there. And Cosmos says, and yet another tournament round. One day you win, one day you lose. Could you remember Cosmos yesterday? He played, he won quickly and tuned in to watch the show. Today, unfortunately, it was a bad day, but good game. Good thing it was a quick game, which is also good news.
Yeah.
And, OK, we have a move from Wei Yi. He did not grab the pawn, and instead he just reinforces the protection of the G6 pawn.
OK, interesting. We mentioned this type of move earlier, but it is purely a defensive move. I guess black's also hitting the white A pawn on the edge of the board, using the black rook now, using the black knight, using the black queen on a diagonal. How does Levon react? Now it's less tempting to jump to the edge of the board with the white knight, because everything's covered there.
Quite like this move. I mean, the queen is finding a better square. Yeah. He can also come over in front of the black rook and place more pressure on the centre along the half-open line. And I'm starting to think that one move from Lev is giving actually Wei Yi quite an OK position. Yeah. I'm saying that quite softly because I'm not entirely sure if I'm right. But
I mean, when we see the evaluation bar, it's hard to be too optimistic about black's position, but it does look better than it did.
Yeah, and he is a pawn down, so the evaluation bar is always going to be a bit wonky here. But the pawn down maybe not so important with so many pieces on the board and chances. But I things have got better for Wei Yi over the last couple of moves. There's no doubt about that. And Lev's now got to really work out what his plan is, because his last move was just a defensive move. He didn't take the opportunity when it was there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true what they say, you know, sometimes chess is all about timing, and I always think about that Eminem song, you know, you're going to lose yourself, that one shot, that one opportunity. And unfortunately, it has really bad chorus. You can't have that one in your mind when you're playing chess.
Gotta lose yourself.
Because you can't have the words, you're going to lose yourself, because then you'll think about losing, and then that you might manifest that one. So.
I do get quite a lot of Eminem songs stuck in my head during chess games.
Do you?
Yeah, there's yeah. Be careful, I better not sing all the lyrics to them. There's one about mushrooms, which for some reason stuck there. Don't know who it is though. It's just like I can't remember the name of the song. Don't know where that came from. But he's played this move now. But I mean, it's strange, isn't it, David? That you know he's done this now. Why is he doing it now when that pawn is defended?
Really surprising. Maybe he's just kind of, his rationale is that, OK, what else is there for white? You kind of have to go for the black king at some point, otherwise your centre might collapse, your queen side is a bit shaky with white. Yeah, maybe he just decided there was nothing better. Or maybe the move which just wasn't on his radar last turn, and now it is, but I'll say surprising. And OK, one of the white pawns drops, it's level material again. Wei Yi's playing on that side of the board, though, when the other side is very shaky.
Isn't he a bit stretched there, isn't he? Maybe.
Yeah, that was my vibe as well. Immediately I thought, hang on a second, that queen could be overloaded. You know, she has to protect the G6 pawn, she has to protect her rook. But I think the tactics are working in black's favour there.
That was it. My Fault by Eminem.
The song?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the one.
It's better than his first album, right? He has lots of aggressive music.
I think it is from his first album, that one, or one of his first albums, definitely.
Anyway, let's because the position is super wild. Let's head back.
It's really heating up, guys. So we do see a rook trade, and big question: does black take back with the queen or with the knight? If you take back with the queen, you do abandon your king side. Firstly, this square under attack. Maybe the white queen jumps in. threatening some really nasty checks. It's, I mean, it's all about the Black King. Yeah, and it does feel like, okay, he did take with the Knight instead of the Black Queen, but it does feel super shaky. This Knight is on the edge of the board, far, far away from the real action that's going to happen on the King side. And how does White break through? How do we justify the +3 almost?
+3 now.
Valuation for White.
Wow.
There must be something. Is it just bringing the White Queen in? The White Queen. I guess this gets kicked back by the Black Bishop.
Go the other way, can't
Could you go the other way, so on the light squares?
This way?
Yeah, line it up.
Yeah, line it up. Hit this pawn. It's attacked 3 times. Can the Black Rook defend? This is ugly.
It might be necessary, right?
Just to defend this square. The one thing, again, we don't want to allow is White's Knight to jump in to the Dream F5 square. OK, he actually chooses a different square for the White Queen. Sneaky stuff. Hitting the Bishop. Unprotected piece. Maybe the White Rook is no longer going to swing across the board, but maybe the White Queen sometime can kind of join the action from this angle later. First, how do we deal with this Bishop? Actually, I'm thinking about it. This Knight on the edge of the board is completely trapped. So Black has to be careful here.
Wow, so you have to be very accurate where you put the Bishop then, because as you point out, you could lose that Knight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
drop it back.
Yeah.
Is there a Knight takes pawn in some positions as well?
Yeah.
He has dropped it back.
He's dropped the Bishop back to a safe square, and Knight takes pawn, you mentioned, Simon, distracting the Black Queen. So after a trade here, will we see it? Suddenly the Black Queen is overloaded. She can take the White Bishop, but then she loses the Knight on the edge of the board, and White is a safe pawn up. But then Black does have the Bishop pair, I guess. Not completely dead yet. OK, now he drops back. What is this? Levon's kind of changing his mind on every turn. He hit this Bishop away from, I guess, a decent square, but now he stepped back to attack this pawn.
Kind of clever, right? Because his pawn in the centre's under less pressure.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's either clever or not. It's one of those cases where, and yeah, like you say, though, this is the only way to defend it, this rook move, and this is an ugly, ugly rook move to play. But White, how does White make progress now?
Yeah, White needs to somehow get this rook, get this Bishop, get this rook into the game.
Yeah.
Those are the only 2 pieces that are currently unemployed.
I suppose you can just move them then. I mean, simply
lift it up, get rid of this defender, maybe.
Do we think the tournament's going to be over with this game? I mean, what does everyone think?
Feels that way.
Yeah. What do you reckon? Do you reckon this is going to be the last game of this?
I don't know, actually. I mean, because I think, we're all, especially me, you know, I'm seeing the evaluation bar and I'm saying, OK, White is winning. White's coordination looks fantastic. But then again, there might not be an immediate win, and this might frustrate Levon. So I'm going to err on the side of caution and say, I don't think this is going to be the last game.
OK. David?
I think it will be, just because when we've seen the clock tick down and both sides being lower on time, Levon's nerves have been stronger.
Yeah, that's true.
And it does feel like if he can find a few accurate moves now, if he can hold an advantage when they both tick down under 2 minutes, then he's a big favourite, I think, Levon Aronian. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, next 3 or 4 moves, if he doesn't find anything, as Jovanka says, if there's nothing direct and he gets frustrated, we could see a turnaround. Okay, he drops the Bishop back. That's clever. I guess creating a square for the White Knight. We mentioned the outpost that the Bishop was previously sitting on. The White Knight wants to use that square now. The White Knight on G3 wants to hop into the centre, attacking Black's Rook, attacking some key pawns. That looks clever.
Yeah, I like that.
I didn't see that at all. Very nice.
Yeah.
And, wow.
Black's pieces are just clumsy.
Maybe it's now time for Wei Yi just to actually do something about the Knight that's stranded. No, he pushes the pawn forward, attacking the Knight. But it does lengthen the diagonal for the Bishop, which, if I were playing with the white pieces, I would feel immediately quite happy about that.
Yeah, so big question, do we jump into that beautiful F5 square? Do we just retreat the White Knight? A couple of choices here. That Knight on the edge of the board attacked.
Yeah, I guess you always look at going forwards first. I mean, you know, if you can. And I think multiple exchanges are OK, but
yeah,
I don't know.
F for forward, so F5 square. That looks very sensible.
Looks like the most obvious, anyway, to not retreat, but to jump in.
I guess the one thing that will make him hesitate is that Black's pieces are a bit cramped, so maybe he doesn't want to exchange pieces, but OK, he goes for it. Too tempting. We'll see Black's Knight eliminate that piece.
Yeah. Why the Knight? Why is it the Knight he will use to eliminate it?
Black's light-squared Bishop, I guess, just controls all the light squares. if you trade off black's light squared bishop, there's a chance that white's queen and bishop are lined up on the light squares will be able to sneak in a bit later. Usually, I don't know why, maybe it's a bad habit of mine, but when I look at a bunch of captures, if I got two pieces, a knight and a bishop, that can capture the same thing, I always think knights before bishops. And I don't know why, it's just an instinct. I mean, most of the time it does work out that way. A knight capture first is more logical, but occasionally you've got to flip the move order. So bishop, the black bishop on c8, taking the knight, also quite logical. What will Wei Yi do? Low on the clock again?
He has ticked under 5 minutes, Wei Yi. It's not a must-win situation, but he cannot lose this game. And he takes with a knight.
Yep.
And now what do you take with his question? I mean, I would probably take with a bishop here without thinking, because I want to get the light squares in the middle, but...
I would take with the knight without thinking.
Yeah, but then I'm thinking maybe the knight's even... But OK.
Here's for your one, Simon.
Clearly.
You and Levon, kindred spirits.
And the evaluation bar drops.
But, I mean, you make a good argument here, because white's knight on this square, we could see the exact same position, but with white's light squared bishop on this square instead of white's knight. And we did talk about f5. We see the patterns. We know how effective those knights can be.
Yeah.
That is pretty much an outpost for the white knight, defended by its queen.
But
I was just thinking, you know, white could start to get an iron grip on the position. You know, you can see a position, you kind of envision a future where the queen just steps forward, protects the pawn, the knight is reinforced, and maybe the rook will just swing over to the left. OK, this requires some help and for black to do absolutely nothing. But, OK, yeah, he steps back with the knight, which I also quite like, you know, again, just keeping control on the position. And if you still manage to utilise the plan of developing the light dark square bishop, get the rook over to the left, this is just domination.
It is, and we could imagine a situation as well, black ends up with a really bad bishop. For example, say we give a few moves to either side here, and we see a trade of bishop for knight. This is what we would call a good knight against a bad bishop, because black's bishop will never break out from behind its own pawns, really, at least not without giving up material, and white's knight has access into all the light squares, and this is just beautiful for white. So in the current position, Wei Yi needs to be the quick one, he needs to do something. He is attacking his pawn now with his queen move. This is one you highlighted earlier, Simon, the queen sitting on a decent square now.
So, I mean, he's holding on well, isn't he, Wei Yi? I mean, I think his chances have got better to hold this. I don't think he's going to win this position, but he hasn't dropped any material or any major concessions yet. OK, he's got some weak squares, but, you know, that's, I think, a blessing for him considering what it could have been.
Yeah. I'm expecting white to just defend this pawn. You could, for example, defend it with a rook. You would love to defend it with the queen, as Jovanka said, but now I guess this pawn is up for grabs. So we need to just keep an eye on this one. I was wondering briefly what happens if white's knight goes to attack the rook, but there are a couple of safe squares for it. I guess it can just slide across. Pretty safe temporarily, and still problems. White's problem, I guess the only one, is this isolated pawn in the middle. It's great if you can keep it, but it is vulnerable. So just defend, Levon, and go active a bit later.
Well, the bar has definitely gone down. Levon is now left with 4 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, Wei Yi, I like what he did in the game, though. It's made it really exciting. From move one, there have been kind of twists and turns. Mostly positive for white, but still, he's been kind of giving Levon some different types of headaches to what he's faced so far in this final. Wow, Levon surprising us all.
That is a very surprising move.
Is it a good move or a bad one?
Wow.
It's hard to say. What's his plan if that pawn is just captured? Which it has to be, right?
I guess his queen wants to dive in, right? I mean, this is the only move I can see, but...
OK.
Risky stuff, both under 4 minutes now.
Yeah, again, I guess we have to investigate, and the evaluation bar says, nope, don't like it. So white's pawn stepping forward. Too much pressure here. Black will take this pawn, surely.
Yeah, if the queen comes in.
Yep, white's queen can jump in, and I guess the black knight, which is attacked, can retreat.
Back.
At least the black knight has a nice square. At least things are protected now for black temporarily.
Well, he's taken it without much thought there, so we'll see. Yeah. We'll see what the plan is soon.
I guess the white bishop can come and try and take this pawn. That might be one idea. White's knight could also jump forward at some point. But actually, yeah, I mean, there's counterplay. This pawn is hanging, for example, in some variations. It's really complicated suddenly after giving up this pawn. I mean, this guy is also attacked, so White's queen surely has to jump in. What else? Very strange. Levon suddenly hand on his head.
Yeah.
Does he feel like he's losing control?
Yeah.
Spending a lot of time, maybe just sensing the finishing line in the match. He's losing a bit of, just losing his nerve slightly.
A little bit impatient, perhaps, trying to just put the ball in the back of the net quickly. And I don't think he even thought that this move was possible. I think he probably just then, oh, the queen dives in, great position, and
that's a one-move calculation, though. I'm sure he saw that the black knight can retreat.
Yeah, but sometimes people just make assumptions. Is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, and they just assume that these kind of moves are, passive.
It's a bit weird that he's fallen into fort here, isn't it, Jovanka? Then, because why is he now thinking?
Yeah.
It's like, he's just sacrificed the pawn. The guy's taken the pawn, and he's now thinking. Seems odd. It seems odd to do it that way around. So.
2.5 minutes for Levon Aronian.
Yeah, he needs to find something now. What is he going to play? Is he going to just defend his central pawn? Is he going to jump in with the white queen, as we showed? Levon, 2 minutes on the clock. Wei Yi, just over 3 minutes.
Could see a fight back. We could see a fight back. Maybe this is the luck that Wei Yi needs, and it's a lot easier playing in his situation in a lot of ways, because you got nothing to lose, right? I mean, you've probably lost the match. You can just play chess, take pawns, just play without any pressure whatsoever. Okay, so Lev playing. This couldn't have been what he had planned, though. Surely, this.
Now, big question is: can Black capture a pawn with his rook? Black's rook can capture the f2 pawn. It's risky. It's a bit loose for Black, but that's the first move you want to calculate right now for Wei Yi. Establish a material advantage. I guess Levon, his idea is to just ignore everything on the king side right now, just go and grab a pawn with his queen, put pressure on Black's knight. Levon did slightly shake his head while he was doing his usual stretching. OK, Black's rook keeping the pawn alive. Black's rook defends the 4th rank. That's quite a nice move, actually. Just hoping that White maybe steps a pawn up to attack that rook, because that would weaken the white-king structure.
But it feels like the momentum is shifting towards Wei Yi. I mean, I love this rook on the 4th row, and it can actually centralise itself and start looking at that completely lonesome pawn in the centre.
Yeah, Levon shook his head again there. Wei Yi thinking. I mean, it's so tempting to capture that white f2 pawn, I've got to say.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Next move.
Yeah, it kind of feels like you're going to get some attacking chances when you take a pawn like that as well.
Exactly.
I mean, even if it's an illusion. But I think, Black is in the driving seat at the moment with a slight time advantage. You could grab that pawn or do the move Jovanka mentioned, put the rook in the centre. Looks very sensible as well.
Very, very sensible.
Maybe that will lead to mass exchanges, though, and a likely draw. I think taking the pawn near the king is the way to keep this game going, keep the complications alive.
Yeah. I mean, in some positions as well, Black's central pawn, the e-pawn could step forward, just unleashing Black's bishop. You might not want to do that yet, but in the near future, that's on the cards. Wei Yi has to move, though, both sides at exactly 2 minutes, pretty much.
It feels like this game will end up with a winner. Yeah. Even if the bar is in the middle of the bar.
Feels that way. Feels that way. I mean, it's been so much tension already.
Yeah.
Definitely feels like it's heated up. And Wei Yi didn't look happy for a second there.
No.
Was he calculating something, then he realised, it doesn't work?
Yeah, it looks
needs to move soon.
But OK, he has to be practical. Just over 1.5 minutes left on the clock, and it's crunch time. Now is his moment. Has to take a decision, and we are advocating that the rook should just be bold and grab the pawn closest to the king, and then things will get very, very spicy. And we could just see Levon Aronian. He had his hands over his head, concentrating hard, getting ready for the ensuing mess that's going to happen. But now, Wei Yi is just over 1 minute.
It's not a good time to have a long think.
No.
I mean, you've just spent 2/3 of your time on this position. He had 3 minutes, and now he's got under a minute. That is not... I mean, this has been a reoccurring issue. His time handling has got him into a lot of trouble. That's how he... OK, he's played the move we wanted him to play, and Aronian quickly grabs that pawn. And now the move that David mentioned, releasing the bishop in front of the black king. This is really actually heating up greatly now. And, yeah, getting very exciting.
Yeah, Black's bishop has some great potential suddenly for the first time in the game. And Black's bishop has just been a dead piece, just a block of wood. And now it threatens to maybe come into the d4 square, line up against the white king, line up against the white knight. Black is also temporarily at least a pawn up. I didn't see any way for white to kind of win material here. You can go and grab a pawn for white, and wow, Stockfish, the computer says there's only one move to avoid defeat for Levon Aronian. And it's not 100% obvious. Maybe by process of elimination he'll get there, but white's bishop has to take a step back to challenge the black bishop. You have to go back to the c3 square, try and trade off the bishops right now. I guess the idea actually is that black's big threat is to swing the black rook across behind the white queen to attack it, utilising the fact it's defended by black's bishop. So you prevent that big threat, but that's counterintuitive, retreating a piece.
Well, he has to do it. Black has really
He's found
huge
it.
piece.
Finds it.
And, yeah, well, now we're seeing a few trades. But hang on a second. Doesn't this favour white? Because black's king is now looking a little bit airy.
Yeah, and look at Stockfish again. Now, most moves give white a decent advantage. Black's only move to prevent a big white advantage is to actually retreat the black rook all the way to
No one will play that.
Well, they will, actually, because there's a huge threat on the board. The knight is threatening to come to the g4 square, attacking the rook, and also threatening knight takes pawn. That is a killer move.
Yeah, this is a massive threat. Oh, sorry, not this one. Me and my arrows. This is a massive threat right now. And as Jovanka mentions, if black does nothing, black retreats the knight. This hits the rook, and more importantly, hits this pawn with a deadly kind of knight fork. So he has stopped this. He stopped it in the most kind of direct way. Here, he just brought his rook back to cover this square. But what happens if this rook is kicked?
Or maybe,
yeah,
maybe it steps forwards.
I guess the rook, if it's attacked, will step either back or into the white position.
And now the queen can dive in, right?
Can you not just centralise here, hit the queen, use the queen to hit the knight, maybe? OK, it has dived in instead in the current position, the white queen. As you mentioned, Jovanka, hitting the knight. Yeah, things turning back in Levon Aronian's favour. It's very loose, and it's all about the king safety. This king is weaker than its counterpart. White king, super safe, actually.
Yeah, I mean, even if black's doing OK here, the issue is practically, and now white can just take the pawn and middle board, getting his material back. Practically, king safety. It's the most important thing when you get short of time. And practically, black's king very exposed. White's king relatively safe here. So Lev won't want to be exchanging queens here. He can start going for the king, get the rook in. A lovely idea. Your knight, look at the white knight. The white knight is a superb piece. It controls checkmate squares. It can jump forwards. It's a brilliant piece in the middle of the board. And this is he's played it. Getting very exciting now.
We might be about to see the final few moves of the whole tournament, because this is a deadly check threat. And if black just pushes a pawn, for example, or does something, this is a check, and black's queen will be skewered on the 7th rank. Deadly threat, and it's not easy to prevent, actually, this check, the rook coming into the 7th rank.
10 seconds.
10 seconds for Wei Yi. I don't see how to stop this. It is...
What he did this last... I call just...
With a few seconds left on his clock, he offers a queen trade. White can say no. White can just reject this and drop back with the queen if he really wants. White's queen can even jump in. This looks really scary, though. A check. You have to drop your knight back now, otherwise you get skewered yet again on the 7th rank. So you have to drop your knight back.
Very passive position.
Hanging by a thread. White can kind of double pin your knight right now.
He's gone in.
He's given a check. The black knight has blocked. What else? There must be a win for Levon. Worst comes to worst, you just push a pawn. Create some breathing space for your king. Bring the white knight in to this square that you guys were talking about. It looks like everything's falling.
Yeah, you got 2 tempting squares to the rook as well. You got the back rank, and you got the one supported by the pawn trying to come over the old swinger operation. And both of these moves actually also look good. There's a lot of tempting moves here for white. I actually quite like your h3. Why not just play it safe? But he's gone in for an aggressive move first of all. Black all the way back now.
Look how defensive it is for black. All these pieces stuck, pinned. trapped, and he does play this move. This is just a very kind of blitz, rapid chess type of move. Push a pawn, make sure your king won't get caught on the back rank. You have some breathing space. Big threat in the position as well, the white knight coming in. And, wow, OK, the black queen slides across, trying to jump in with some checks. Wei Yi fighting really hard, actually.
Yeah, this is a great resource from Wei Yi. He might just have enough counterplay because he can get the queens off in a lot of positions if the knight jumps in now. Surely that would help him with very close, well, maybe a drawn ending. So possibly Lev missed this, right? I mean, if you continue with your knight jump, then, yeah, the queens get exchanged, and then black's king is in no danger whatsoever. And even though you might lose a pawn here, I think very good drawing chances.
Yep. And the white king shuffles into the corner. Really fascinating stuff. Just avoiding any checks for now. But Levon's slightly shaking his head. Black's still alive. Wei Yi fighting for his life in this tournament.
Wow. The rooks are swinging in this game. The bar is swinging in this game. Levon winning, Wei Yi winning. It's a draw. Who knows what this will end up with?
Who knows? And great move by Wei Yi, attacking the white rook. And you can't take that black knight because the white rook would have fallen, so we see a trade. Suddenly, you talked about white's knight being strong, Simon. Black's knight is equally strong.
Yeah, I think black's over the worst now. And, well, with this move, clearly Lev is like, OK, draw. This is just agreeing that he's missed his opportunity, and we're going to get another game.
You have to be slightly careful as white. The black king will get very active soon. But, yeah, as Simon says, it should be a draw. There's not many pawns remaining, and this will eliminate a few more pawns, this last move. I'm just wondering whether we'll see a moment like the last game where suddenly one side self-destructs in a drawn position. We can't write the game off too early. The last game, Wei Yi, one move in a dead drawn position, and it was over.
Yeah. He only has 20 seconds left now, 25.
Yeah, Levon.
Is he still playing for? Still maybe playing for a win with that move as well, because he could have swapped off one more pawn and got a little bit closer to the draw. But this move's a little bit more playing for the win at least. Now you can check maybe.
White will give a check. Black's king will step back.
Yeah, and I was going to ask whether Wei Yi will be feeling bold, whether he will try and play for more, sensing that the tide is perhaps turning.
I think it'll be too risky for Wei Yi here. I think at least if he survives this game, where he's been on the brink for a long time, at least he gets 2 more games. Or at least the next one. OK, he is playing for the win as black.
Wow.
I'm surprised at King F4,
Yeah, it's so bold, but so unnecessary. Suddenly white is a pawn up.
But it's not any pawn, it's the rook's pawn, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's like the rook's pawn is so good in a knight ending.
Yeah.
But the white knight's trapped, right? The white knight is trapped.
White knight has only one square to go to, and that's the top of the board. It can go to the G8 square, but look at the evaluation bar.
Swinging again.
Wei Yi, that's the thing. He's playing for wins in positions where he should just get out of the game with a draw. The same in the last game. This one too. At least if he drew this one with white in a must-win situation, maybe slightly easier. If he won that, that's the first step. OK, the white knight does escape.
And
Black king, is it going back to stop Harry the H-pawn there?
I think it has to. I think it's forced. 14 seconds and the clock is ticking down for Wei Yi. He has to keep an eye on that runaway H-pawn. If he doesn't do that, he's running the risk of losing.
Well, a few seconds left. 3 seconds when he made that move, retreating. The white pawn will simply step forward. Black's king has to kind of chase that pawn now. And the white king is coming.
Is Levon winning again?
Maybe. It's on the brink between winning and drawing for white right now. There's no chance black will win this game, but why would you ever go for this position as Wei Yi? The black knight is currently doing a good job creating a barrier, stopping the white king from kind of stepping forward again. But
he just wanted to make the game last a bit longer.
I mean, can't Levon just push the H-pawn? OK, he's done that. Give it up and get the knight out of its prison and win a pawn. Make Wei Yi suffer for some extra moves. And he doesn't have much time on the clock.
Yeah, and of course it should be a draw with only 2 white pawns left. But I think
this will be a draw.
But I mean, OK, and he's
he has won a pawn at least.
But he's got to
still prove it.
He's got to prove it, yeah.
He's got to work hard for his money, right?
Well, maybe that's...
I think he should clinch the draw with this last move.
And Aronian looking annoyed there with himself, really annoyed. So...
He knows he was winning for a whole chunk of the game, but he knows deep in the end game he got given another golden opportunity. But Wei Yi now looks pretty relaxed. He knows that this will go to a third game. The problem is for White, the White D pawn that's far advanced will be stopped by the Black King. White's G pawn is just going to fall unless White goes super passive with his king. But if you go passive with your king, that's not a good sign. And simply Black's king is going to march towards the D pawn. Eventually Black's knight is going to give itself up so that Wei Yi can eliminate both the white pawns. We will see this happen. I'm expecting the Black king now to just go towards the white knight. There we go. Yeah. And no way to keep both the pawns alive. Is there a trap in the position? A small trap if the Black king moves across maybe, but this is safe chess. He gives up the knight and eliminates the final white pawn. Not enough checkmating material. It's a draw. We will see a game 3.
We will see a game 3, but Levon Aronian is still in the lead, and Wei Yi, he has to win game 3 to have any hopes of taking this to tie breaks. Game 3 will start in 15 minutes. Levon looking over this. He had big winning chances in this game, but it ended with a draw. And here is today's Lisoveta learning point.
And in this game, which did end in a draw, Levon Aronian had great winning chances. In general, in chess, especially in rapid and blitz chess, the moves we always want to play are to create some luft, creating some air for the king. And here, Levon Aronian actually played that idea, but maybe in the wrong order. In this position, he brought his rook up to the top of the board, creating this really nice pin. It looks scary for Black, but this was easily defended by Wei Yi. And as we saw, this white pawn push now allowed Black to create some counterplay by bringing the queen across and going for the white king. Actually, the winning move, or one of the winning ideas, was to not play this move yet, to keep it in your back pocket for later, but first create some luft for the white king, pushing this pawn forward, and the whole idea is to create a nice square for the white knight. If Black does the same thing, for example, and brings the rook back, then at least White can jump forward with the knight, or White could just retreat with his queen with an ongoing attack. Ideas such as the rook coming forward, winning this pawn, and the knight leaping forward, this would have left complete domination and most likely would have ended the tournament on the spot. So keep this idea in mind. Even if you're attacking, sometimes it's nice to take a time out, secure your king, and secure some important squares.
We are learning, and this is really heating up, you guys. Game 3. That's going to be a must-win situation for Wei Yi with the white pieces. That should be a super cool game. So we're going to charge our batteries and get ready for Game 3. We'll be back in a few minutes.
So we just race to the line. Yeah. I'm definitely gonna crush it. Set, go!
When someone asks me how my chess game is going,
sometimes it may be good, sometimes it may be shit.
Air quality isn't the first thing that comes to mind when you think about chess and esports, but it affects our focus, decision-making, health, sleep, and more. What's in the air you breathe? Find out with Air Things.
Welcome back to FTX Road to Miami. Game 3 will be a must-win game for Wei Yi, and it's starting in about 10 minutes. So before that, in this tournament, we have been celebrating the 1972 World Chess Championship match when the American Bobby Fischer became world champion. And David and Askild, they have traveled to Iceland to walk in the footsteps of Bobby Fischer and Boris Spassky. They played a very dramatic match, but the build-up to the match was just as dramatic.
In 1972, a World Championship match took place between Bobby Fischer and Boris Spassky. It's now regarded as one of the most famous matches in chess history. Now here we are in Iceland again, retracing their footsteps, and today we're going to meet the main organizer of that famous 1972 match.
He invited us to meet him at the Bobby Fischer Center in Selfoss.
My name is Guðmundur.
It was a big challenge for Guðmundur Thorarinsson, setting up the match of the century.
And our only wish is to enrich the chess world.
It all started when a journalist called him, asking about his new job as the president of the Icelandic Chess Federation.
I said, I have nothing to do with the Chess Federation. And he said, well, last Sunday there was a general meeting and you were elected the president of the Chess Federation. No, I was not there, I said, and I don't know anything about this or the Chess Federation.
No one wanted the job, so his little brother had nominated him.
I became very angry and said, how could you do this? He said, is that you just live with it for 2 or 3 years and then you go away. There is nothing to do in the Chess Federation. Nothing happens.
Little did he know what was coming.
Then there came a letter.
Iceland was invited to participate in a bid for the World Championship match. This was of big interest to the board of the Icelandic Chess Federation, but not to Thorarinsson.
This is a nonsense, that we have no money to take part in a bid like this. I don't like this. There is no sense in participating in this. They kept pressing me, and I said, you're just creating a work for me to prepare a bid for this. I don't do this. But they kept pressing, so I thought maybe I'll send some kind of a bid to, get out of this dispute.
Iceland had the 3rd largest bid.
I said, there you see, I was right. This was just, you were just creating a work for me for preparing all this, and there was never a chance that we could win this match.
But the world champion, Boris Spassky, wanted to play in Iceland.
Iceland, I said, is that possible? Yes, Spassky says he wants to play in Iceland. And I, who never wanted to be the president of the Chess Federation and never wanted to participate in the match, stood there with the whole problem.
One of the problems, a major one, was getting Bobby Fischer to come to Iceland. Thorarinsson argued with Fischer's lawyers.
And they said, we can't get him to come to Iceland to play unless you raise the prize money. And I said, well, there is no possibility that we do that. I didn't even have the money to pay the prize money that we had made a bid for.
On the day the World Championship was to be opened, Thorarinsson was still arguing with Fischer's lawyers.
It's over because of how you handled this foolishly. You tell them, but just there will be no match.
Tor Aronian was late for the official opening of the championship. When he finally entered the building, he was met by two representatives from the foreign ministry.
And they said, what kind of a man are you? Iceland is very unlucky to have a man like you. You have the president and the government and the ambassadors and the world champion waiting here for 20 minutes for you.
Tor Aronian could not reveal what was going on with Fischer.
And I said, you have to give me 5 minutes. I have to talk to the board of the Chess Federation. And they said, no way. And they came to and they took under my arms and took me to the stage and said, get up there, you foolish man, and open the match.
He was about to close the match when it suddenly struck him.
A meter from the podium, I decided to open it, like nothing had happened. And then it came to my mind that I can always close it. So I opened it with a lousy speed.
Game 1 started.
Well, Spassky is waiting.
And Fischer did not show up.
I just wondered if you've ever seen Mr. Fischer, if you have any proof that he actually exists.
Spassky was very worried. He said to me, Guðmundur, this cannot go on any longer. And I think he had been waiting here for maybe a week or 10 days or something like that. And then he said, and was very determined, you have to solve this on a higher level. Higher level? I said, yes. It's the only way to solve this is to solve it on a higher level. I didn't have the imagination to think of a higher level, but I said, well, if that is the possibility, I'll do that.
It was indeed taken to a higher level. Foreign Minister Henry Kissinger motivated Fischer.
He said, the Americans want you to go to Iceland and beat the Soviet Union. It's of vital importance. And they said, Bobby Fischer changed at this moment. His face became like that of a soldier going to a war. And he said, I'll do that.
That was the build-up to the 1972 match. Very dramatic and a nice trip for you guys to Iceland, David.
Yeah, it was really nice to kind of find out all these stories from people who were actually there 50 years ago. And there was so much that I learnt. I mean, I thought I'd read a lot about the match. I'd played through all the games, of course, but to find out all the backstories behind the games, to find out about all the drama between the players, between the arbiters and organisers, it was fascinating stuff. And it made me really proud to be part of the chess world. I mean, it's so much history out there.
Absolutely. Does it remind us a little bit of the situation today, Simon? We are waiting to hear from Magnus Carlsen. Will he play? Will he not play the World Championship match, putting pressure on FIDE?
Yeah, I think I'm right in saying this, but the only person who hasn't come back and defended their World Championships is Bobby Fischer. So Magnus is in that same position now. Is he going to do a Bobby Fischer, or is he going to? We'll find out soon. I mean, I really hope he does play.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, who knows? Who knows? He's got other things on his mind as well, by the sounds of it. So,
yeah. Do we know anything more, Jovanka? When will Magnus announce? There's been rumours that it's going to happen on the 20th.
Yeah, FIDE have asked him to take a decision for the 20th, but whether he will or whether it will be maybe after the Olympiad, maybe after the general meeting that FIDE have during the Olympiad, who knows? But in the meantime, all we can do is just hope that the world champion does decide to take on Jan Boniaci in a rematch. But we'll see.
We'll see. And we really recommend everyone to just keep an eye on Chess24 and keep an eye on the Chess24 wall, the new feature. As soon as there's any news on Magnus Carlsen playing or not playing the next World Championship match, Chess24 will know. In 54 seconds, Game 3 in the final between Levon Aronian and Wei Yi will start. And it's a dramatic game because Levon Aronian, he won the match yesterday and he won the first game today. He is in the lead, and Wei Yi, he has to win both Game 3 and game 4 to take it to tiebreaks and have any hopes of winning the tournament. He will have the white pieces in game 3 and in a must-win situation. I mean, this must be an entertaining one.
Surely it will. It all depends on the opening choices for Wei Yi as well. He's been on the back foot of both of the games today from an early stage. The first game of the day, the opening went a bit wrong. I don't think we'll see him repeat that. Queens came off very early. It was just a really defensive endgame for Wei Yi, and he ended up blundering, losing. And likewise, in the last game, he took a lot of risks and was suffering throughout. So he needs something different, simply, Wei Yi. And hopefully it'll be exciting. Hopefully it'll be some kind of attacking chess where at least he can ask Levon some difficult questions.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Bring it on! I think I've played that rubbish before.
What is this?
Simon?
Maybe you're sitting next to me for a Cheddleton match or something. I mean, this is more like it. I love it. I love it. A wild move there, but I mean, Mamedyarov is a player who's played this kind of jab on occasions, but yeah, I mean, God, David, over to you. I'm just very happy to see that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what to say. We've got to say it's definitely not a mouse slip. It looks like White has just blundered a pawn, but he's giving it up. He's sacrificing a pawn in order to make the Black Knight lose a bit of time. If the Black Knight goes and captures that White pawn, the White G pawn, then White will expand even further in the centre, at least over the next few moves. And yeah, I mean, I've struggled to understand why the sacrifice is viable, to be honest. But
I don't think it really is. Yeah, it is the answer, but it's sort of a this move you can play one move before. It's called the Kilkenny Gambit, which I've had some fun with myself. And I mean, this is a solid choice, isn't it? You know, because you have to ask yourself, is it really good for White to have that pawn there in the first place as well? But brave stuff from Wei Yi in a do-or-die situation.
It's certainly brave, and what I like about this particular opening choice is that Wei Yi faced it himself against Mamedyarov just recently in the Chessable Masters.
Okay.
And that game was a draw, actually. And, well, there's been obviously a deviation from that particular game, but now the players are actually freestyling, and when the players are on their own, then we are going to see creativity happen.
OK, so Levon Aronian grabs a pawn, but not the pawn we were expecting, maybe. And the acid test of this whole opening had to be to grab White's G-pawn, this pawn that's marching down the board now, attacking, destabilising Black's knight. I'm assuming that a knight is going to jump into the centre of the board. But I think Wei Yi's opening has been justified. We've already got a really irrational position where anything can happen. He's already on the front foot this time.
Yeah, definitely. He's going to take over centre with 2 pawns. If Black ever castles kingside, he has to worry about that lone straggler coming towards his king. He's only 1 pawn down at the moment, and that's nothing to worry about. So, in a do-or-die situation, this is a perfect choice, and I think the opening's gone well. Here he comes. He's throwing them all up the board.
Harry and Gary going on an adventure. And, yeah, I mean, this just looks fantastic. Yes, you're a pawn down, but this black pawn, it's doubled. Long-term, it's weaker anyway, so you don't need to rush to recapture it. I like this one, Simon. I mean, the alternative, right, was going for space in the centre, going for a space grab. But I guess at some point these pawns might be a bit weak. There's no reason to play in the centre when he's committed to one flank already, and it's consistent. He's hoping, I guess, that Levon Aronian castles into the firing line and the white pawns will step forward at some point, explode open the position. Instead, Levon doesn't commit the black king. It stays in the centre for now, and he just moves his bishop. He wants to line up on this diagonal.
Yeah. But in fairness, though, Levon hasn't done anything wrong. You know, he
didn't take the bait. I would argue that in this position, this is doing something wrong, Jovanka. Not taking this pawn. It's a free pawn.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's true. I take your point.
No one takes that pawn. It's weird. Whenever you play this move, everyone's too scared to take it.
I guess, as far as I know, the computer kind of suggestion is to push this pawn forward now. So it becomes like a Dutch opening where black is just a pawn up, but it's very sharp. I mean, you can push this pawn and it gets a bit complicated. But, yeah, back to the current position. And Jovanka, you were saying maybe hasn't done anything too drastic, at least black. So how does Levon develop here? OK, do we think Levon Aronian, he's too scared to castle this way because of the white pawns? Is he going to try castle the other on the other flank on the queen side?
But maybe White's going to get there first, David. I mean, if I was White here, I'm thinking I'm not castling kingside. I need to break it up. Yeah, let's get on with it. Castle queenside, push the pawn in the middle up, open up the board, get to his king, checkmate, bring it off to the next game, win that, playoffs, happy days, champion.
Easy.
So, easy peasy. So, yeah.
Wow, this looks like a cool game. And David, I saw that you entered the selfie competition.
I did.
Yeah, very cool. But you forgot landscape.
Oh, yes. Sorry, guys. I've only been listening to landscape for the last few months.
Yeah. Very cool selfie. And you too, tweet your selfie using the hashtag #ChessChamps.
Yeah, this knight was hit. The black knight moved. And, okay, how does he continue the attack? I love the fact that Wei Yi has been playing quickly as well.
Yeah.
They've been I think Jovanka used that word freestyling. They've been freestyling for a while already, but bang, bang, bang. The moves are continuing. Yeah. That's what Wei Yi needs.
Exactly what he needs. I mean, we've seen him pause, we've seen him being indecisive, and that has come back to bite him. And whilst Wei Yi is thinking, well, you mentioned the selfie challenge. Oh, hang on a second, there is a move. And a nice aggressive one at that. The queen steps forward 2 squares and starts eyeing up the pawn sitting there on G7.
Yeah, looks good.
Looks good. It's saying to White, saying to Black, hey, why don't you castle?
But also...
Straight into my attack.
You're ready just to win your pawn back as well here.
Yeah.
I mean, like you say, the one on the king side, but you can develop your last piece and take a pawn. I really like White's position. I mean, I'm always a bit of an optimist in these things, and I think fortune should favour the brave, really, you know, your brave play. I mean, you were talking about Kaja and, you know, the goddess of chess. I mean, it surely should be smiling on Wei Yi for this play in this game.
Yeah. I mean, Levon Aronian, I'm surprised he's been playing so quickly after being hit with this massive surprise on move 3, which surely he hasn't analysed in any serious detail. But, yeah, he wasn't brave. Wei Yi was very brave choosing this opening. Levon wasn't brave enough to grab that all-important pawn. So it would be right, according to the chess goddess, that Black is on the back foot, suffering slightly.
I mean, where do you put your king as Black? This is the key thing. Do you go king side, which I don't. You know, there's no immediate danger. I say very softly, or do you go queen side where there's no immediate danger? I don't know. They both look scary, don't they? To be honest, but it's also scary leaving it in the middle, and you've got to make this decision at some point.
Yeah. Pretty much now because of this pawn being under fire, and like you said, Simon. I mean, if you go this way. If you go to the queen side with the black king, it doesn't feel safe at all, to be honest. For example, White can just regain a pawn. I don't think we'll see a capture of this bishop, but if we do, then suddenly some threats along this line. Yeah, the white pawn stepping forward, maybe a big threat. If you go the other way, then at least you have to kind of find your nerves, find your courage. White's pawn will step forward, and actually both of these pawn pushers are on the cards. It's a really scary time to be the black king.
It's not what you want when you're in a...
you just want
to draw, right? You just want a nice, simple position where you have just an easy play, and instead you're just thrown into this deep, dark forest where nothing is making sense.
Great opening choice, actually. In you know, it's got Lev out of his book, and it scared him because he didn't take the pawn, as David said. And you know, if you don't accept these gambits, generally the side gets quite good position. Okay. He's played a move, David.
Yeah, he's pushed the f-pawn. So I guess the idea is to firstly keep the tension, keep his options open. He's still saying, OK, maybe I'll go this way, maybe I'll go the other way. You keep guessing. If you attack on one side, I'll run the other way. So I kind of like this. Also, he's kind of setting up a nasty pawn push. So, for example, your move now, Simon, taking this pawn, which otherwise would win back the pawn and look fantastic. I guess this would run into a hit on the white queen, and white's queen can no longer defend the bishop next to her. So the white queen, for example, could step back, but the white bishop will disappear. So a small trap included in the position. It does feel a bit loose, however. If we take the pawn, a question for black, does he take with the queen, try and hurry to get the queens off? If you take with the pawn, it does look very loose, this kind of structure. Black will never castle this way, at least now. So we know that. But yeah, I quite like it from Levon Aronian, this last move, pushing the pawn, keeping his options open. It looks like both players playing great, actually, right now.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
And Wei Yi, he's more sensible with his clock in this game.
Much more sensible.
Yeah.
but it's a bit late. He maybe should have stumbled on the strategy of playing quickly kind of before today's action started. Game 3, when he's already in a must-win situation, it's not easy anymore to kind of suddenly adapt and switch.
Oh, but imagine if he wins this game. In Game 4, bunch of confidence for Wei Yi.
Yeah,
definitely.
Anything could happen.
Yeah, exactly. And it would be the start of perhaps a comeback. I mean, we have seen people turn it around.
Absolutely.
I do remember, I think it was Magnus Carlsen. He won 2 games against Wesley So, I want to say, on demand.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, if you're playing like this, you're playing with this aggression, then, you know, it can... Again, you know, you can really throw your opponent off guard. It kind of shows you, I mean, I don't know how often this move on move 3 has actually been played, but not often. And it just shows you how rich chess is, because, you know, they're banging out a lot of theory in a lot of the other lines, but this is an incredibly rare move on move 3 in a very, very common position. It's a kind of a modern idea. Giving up the pawn, and it gives hope to me as a chess player. It's like chess is not dead. It also gives hope because the computer hates this move, but the top players in the world are playing this, which I also like, because it's basically saying the computers are not always right, or if they are right, there's still a lot of... It's different when humans are playing chess. So there's a lot of positive things about such a move, and being creative is something you should all try at home, because it's fair enough following your chessball courses and just trying to remember stuff, but going your own way and creating things like this is one of the most fun things to do in chess. You know, you should enjoy playing at the end of the day. Enjoy your moves, enjoy playing. Even if you lose, you can still try to enjoy the process, even though that's not easy. But you know.
Do you reckon he played the Fleetwood Mac song "Go Your Own Way" before this?
Go your own way.
Before Wei Yi played this pawn move, before he played this game.
What other lyrics are appropriate for this one? There must be quite a lot, you know. My brain is a bit blank.
Tell everybody I'm on my way.
Well, this position is livening up even more if we go back to the game position. Wow, maximum tension. We were talking about kind of this pawn push being a threat for black. He just said, OK, I'll push forward instead. Look at all these pawns. I mean, it's just chaos. You can capture any of them as black. But Levon said, nope, I'm not going to dare to capture any of these white pawns. Too dangerous. I'm going to castle the black king to safety. I say safety. It might not be safe on this side for much longer. White also has the option of stepping forward with his pawn. I mean, look how much chaos there is here.
That's brilliant. I love it. I love a good bit of chaos.
Yeah.
It's always fun. And
he's played it.
Yeah.
And he's gone straight in.
Those white pawns
Wow.
look so dangerous.
They do. They certainly do.
And the question now that Lev has to face is, do you capture that pawn or do you just walk away with the queen? Because it's difficult.
Yeah. If you walk away, I guess you have to decide what to do here. The rook will be attacked, and if you take this pawn, there's a nasty check, and the knight might drop. So I think he had to capture, as he has just done. He has just taken this pawn in this position, but OK, Wei Yi's now thinking he can capture this way. He can first also capture this pawn. I mean, which way do you go? This one, this one,
I think you
this
must.
one?
Yeah, I mean, that pawn in the centre attacking the queen just looks so tempting. I mean, like, you know, you got that pawn there. What a fawn. It's just prodding your opponent and gaining a tempo. You know, that move is kind of an automatic move to me. I mean, there could be better options, but that pawn is really juicy. Really nice pawn.
If the queen moves, the question is, what next? Levon just shook his head. What could white try? Does he take this pawn, maybe?
You can even think about a check, couldn't you?
Throw in the check first?
Yeah, I like the check and maybe give a square to the knight, and the bishop coming into the fianchetto position in some cases is one tempting idea, isn't it, Jovanka?
Yeah, it was definitely tempting. I was also
the other knight
tempted
coming in,
by
wow.
the move that David's highlighting.
Yeah, this bishop, like you said, Simon, long diagonal. You can imagine a situation where if black is too slow, then suddenly everything lines up.
Yeah, very scary, this for Lev. I mean, you know, Wei Yi could not have asked for a better opening here to fight, which is great. And, yeah, I don't know, do you guys find it's all about winning? I had quite a tough game of backgammon yesterday. And very close, but I didn't win.
I'm very
Evil
happy.
eyes.
I
Evil
have
eyes.
beaten Simon in a board game. I am so happy.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was one of the one of the tensest
A little bit
games.
of banter during that game as well.
It was a bit of banter.
Yeah,
It was a good game.
fun. It was a good game.
Maybe some dice were thrown.
Yeah.
By one of us.
Never seen in my whole chess career anyone as competitive as Kaja.
It was a lot of fun. We were
It was
both,
a lot of fun. Yeah.
So good.
And I did win. But I did win after sort of throwing Simon's dices away at some point. I didn't accept whatever.
Yeah. another great game backgammon. No, it's a really fun game. It's nice
Yeah.
that it'll change your chess. You know, any game that makes you think is obviously good. So,
Absolutely. It's a fun game, but it is obviously a dice game, so there is a lot more luck in it than it is in chess. Is there any luck at all in chess?
Yes, I would argue that. And it's actually to do with your opponent, I would say. Because sometimes you play perfect chess and your opponent also plays perfect chess. That's luck. Sometimes your opponent, that's bad luck, actually. If you play perfect chess and your opponent plays badly, just crumbles, then that's good luck. And sometimes...
Well, you kind of make your opponent
definitely.
play bad chess.
Not necessarily. Sometimes your opponent just falls on their own sword. You know, something is off with their mental state that day, and they just make mistakes and they just collapse very quickly and they grant you a free game. It happens, and I just kind of consider that luck. And sometimes you make a blunder and your opponent doesn't see it. Again, it exists, and you consider yourself fortunate when those things happen.
Yeah, I think in online chess there's even more kind of luck, there's even more variability than in over-the-board chess. For example, this tournament alone, we've seen mouse slips, we've seen disconnections. I mean, imagine Mamedyarov got a free 3 points in the prelims just because Zhu Wenjun disconnected in a very balanced position. So occasionally things happen like that. We've seen various mouse slips, we've seen kind of accidental pre-moves, we've seen a whole bunch of things. Over-the-board chess, it's mostly on the board kind of luck where, as Jovanka mentions, you kind of rely on certain factors that are out of your control. You rely on your opponent's maybe fallibility, and yeah, it's online chess. At least I blame luck when I lose or when I mouse slip. Don't know whether it's the luck or the chess gods or whatever. But
I'll tell you what, it was just pure luck, no skill yesterday. Nothing to do with skill there, clearly. All luck there, 100%. So.
And OK, the game is following the lines that we predicted. And whilst Levon is considering how to defend and Wei Yi is considering how to attack, well, we are running a selfie competition. And Abhishek tells us that they are cycling in the vast wilderness of Lake District. Is so much fun.
Wow.
Similar to enjoying the Meltwater Champions Chess Tour broadcast on YouTube. Thank you very much for your nice words, Abhishek. And Tanushri is saying, Rory Lopez and the finale. Let's call this the perfect Sunday night. Yeah. See you again in the next tournament.
Fantastic.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And again, Abhishek, he seems to be multitasking, maybe through the multiverse, because he's in Lake District. Now, front seat on the upper deck is my favourite place to sit on the bus in London. Either I'm just standing outside or playing chess with random strangers on the Chess24 app. And I have to say, I agree with him. It's really good to sit on the upper deck.
Yeah.
And if you can get the front seat, that's the best.
Perfect view.
Although, I'll confess, I used to love this as a kid. I used to run for that spot. Now, as an adult, I stay away. Because, you know that if there's an accident, you're going to go flying.
Wow. That's true.
Safety first.
Yeah. All right. Well, Wei Yi, he has been more sensible with his time in this game, but now thinking for 2 minutes.
yeah, I think we can't blame him too much in the current position because it is so wild. It is maybe a critical situation as well. He needs something now, Wei Yi, ideally. He's still 1 pawn down as white. And I do like what Aronian's done with his knights. It's a bit kind of reminiscent of the last game when Aronian put the 2 white knights in front of his king. He's done the same now. The 2 black knights are great defenders. Still a lot of potential in white's position, I've got to say. I can see a whole bunch of ideas. You mentioned some, Simon, Jovanka, but it's just putting those ideas together.
I guess the obvious ones are the knight jumps here.
Yeah.
The first, you probably look at the most aggressive moves first. I mean, if we talked about the process of elimination, if you're trying to find a move in a position, my reasoning is you just calculate the first move that comes to your mind, but that should be the most critical move, because you should always try to play in a forcing way, I feel. If it works, then you can move down the list. And, well, here, I guess, both knight jumps are quite tempting. And I'm quite surprised, actually. I mean, to me, to my eyes, this position looks fantastic for white. Just shows what a complete optimist I am. When in actual fact, the computer is sort of saying it's fine for black. And we have another move, a move I did not expect here.
Yeah, very surprising, pushing the A pawn forward. The idea is straightforward. The idea is simple. You want to kick away this black knight, but for a few reasons, maybe surprising. Also, Simon, you mentioned just these knight jumps. This one looks so logical, bringing a knight and queen into the attack. The other one, bringing the knight to put pressure on this black knight. And, yeah, this pawn push. Firstly, how big a threat is this pawn push? Secondly, does black have ways to counterattack? I mean, one idea for black would be to shuffle the king. Yeah, this is maybe the most logical move he's just played. Shuffle the king towards the corner. And if white's pawn steps up, at least the black knight has options. You could step back. He's cleared this square now for the black knight. You could make an argument... Oh, whoops, me and my arrows. You could make an argument for stepping into the centre as well.
I think does that. This is a much more proactive move. I mean, this is where you got the temptation, because you only need a draw to go passive. Yeah. Big mistake. Go active. Because the white king is weak as well.
Yeah. The white king is weak as well, and if we take this knight off the board, we see another capture. The problem for white is you don't really want to swap the queens off. Remember, you need to win, and also in a position like this, there is a risk that this pawn actually becomes more of a weakness than a strength. Could be a real target in the endgame. So you don't want to trade the queens, and if you take with a rook instead, again, some potential issues. I mean, firstly, I could see a situation where black's rook is quite active on the e-file. Maybe black's rook swings this way, indirectly threatens the white queen. In some lines, yeah, Simon, you called it. I mean, this king is potentially the more vulnerable of the two right now.
Yeah, this often happens, doesn't it? When you're playing this wild way, if the first wave is repelled, then it's it can actually, the counter-attack comes. Just also like to say a quick hello to Jerry Graham, who just did a tweet there, who runs the Bunratty tournament in Ireland, and one of my favourite tournaments. So hello to Jerry.
How cool.
Yeah.
You play a lot of tournaments, Simon.
I don't play that many. I play this tournament in Ireland I've played for the last 20 years, and it's just a weekend tournament. Nice. But it's in a really nice part of Ireland where there's a castle and lots of nice pubs. So it's a really, really, really nice tournament. One of my favourites. And Peter Svidler's played there, Wesley So, Topalov. Loads of these people come over because it's just a beautiful tournament to play.
Yeah, it's a very fun tournament as well. Cool. And there's a reason I think it's unrated, right?
It's unrated, thank goodness.
Yeah. Because you're encouraged also to have a good time. That's the whole emphasis. It's have a good time, play chess, and if you are teetotal, this is kind of a little bit frowned upon.
It doesn't matter, but it's sort of a lot of people do drink Guinness during the game, shall we say?
Yeah. Well, a bunch of moves. The bar is liking this for Levon, David.
Yeah, it's really turning in black's favour, and I think it's just that one factor that Simon's been discussing. The white king is very weak now, actually. We praised Wei Yi's play, and I think he's played great, but he did seem to lose a lot of momentum pushing that white A-pawn up the board. It seemed to help black do what he wanted in the first place, and it cost white 2 valuable tempi. Right now, the black knight could leap out the way to various squares, and there would be an attack on the white queen from black's rook on c8. I mean, white's king just looks so airy. The black queen I could definitely see activating at some point. For example, black's f-pawn could actually capture. There's an open line for the black queen to use. Just so many holes. Suddenly, if you compare it to the black king, black's king, safe as houses. Yeah. Pawn's knight in front of it.
Yeah, totally.
Turned.
And I'm also wondering, OK, he moves his queen. I also wondered whether there was any direct moves with the knight. And this reasonable move, although I do feel the queen perhaps is a little bit out of the action there.
Yeah, she's not great on this square, is she?
No, if you're going to play that,
the white knight.
Why didn't you take the pawn?
Oh, but wait. Can you really put your rook there?
Really?
Because the knight can
really
just
nice
move.
Trick from Wei Yi, I think. Although, yeah, it's really, really complicated here. We have to jump in. Jovanka, you think there's a winning move for black, maybe?
Well,
or at least a tempting move.
That's my instinct. It said, well, the first move I'm going to look at is the knight will move out of the way and attack the queen. But this is a trap.
His intention is to play knight takes knight, giving up the white queen, letting it fall, because now after a knight capture, there's a check and a fork at the end. And if we do a quick count, white has won a rook and 2 pieces just for the black queen, which is also offside. So white would be doing great here. Also the d pawn. So in the current game position, he didn't go for this knight jump, instead pushed his pawn.
This is nice, actually. Yeah. You know, I didn't fall for the trap, hook, line and sinker like I did, and instead liberates the light-squared bishop, threatens a very deadly attack by pushing the pawn forward, and...
Now threatens this knight jump.
No.
That's a lot of threats that you've just mentioned there.
Hang on a second. Does this mean that Wei Yi's position is collapsing?
Yes.
Yeah, it might. Yeah, it seems like it has kind of been that way for a couple of moves. It's all just turned very quickly. I mean, I think this pushing the rook's pawn, you know, I was trying to think where did white go wrong? I mean, maybe the position, well, it clearly wasn't as good as I thought, but pushing that pawn only helped black. So white wasted 2 moves to give black the attack, because that knight jump just got to this situation. So I think this was the key problem.
I think black wanted to play that knight jump anyway, as you mentioned, and it's the type of position where you can't lose time, you can't lose moves. Okay, white's knight has retreated. This gives black so many tempting options. First, you look at a similar idea to Jovanka's. You bring the knight forward. Now the queen is indeed hit. There's no sacrifices. There's a pin on this line as well. Where does the queen even go? She can step back. I mean, you don't even have to move the knight now. It'd be so tempting to jump in with the black queen. It's just collapsed. It's all gone wrong. And suddenly the black queen can jump in, hitting the rook, hitting the pawn next to her. I mean, it's just disaster, really. I mean, at very least, you can also put your bishop on a square like this one, hit the rook in the corner. Lots of options.
And, I mean, how can you resist not putting the knight on that square? Yeah. I mean, you know, it's such a nice move to play. You open the rook, you move your knight in, you line up against your opponent's king. It's a move that I think he'll play. But we did say that about another knight move, and Aronian didn't play it in the last game. He could have moved his knight to the edge of the board in the last game and got an overwhelming position, and he didn't play it. So will he find the right, if it is the right knight move?
It's screaming to be played, right?
Oh, definitely. I'd just have to play it, you know, just because it looks nice as well.
You can make an argument for the queen coming in, for the black bishop coming to attack the rook. There are other tempting moves. You could just say, OK, I'm just not going to worry, just bring the other rook into the game.
They look all good as well. I think the queen...
This one is just too tempting.
Definitely. And the queen coming in as well also looks
tempting.
mighty fine.
Yeah. Hitting the rook. Yeah, I don't even see how white reacts to this. If the white rook moves, then this pawn drops. If the queen comes back to offer a trade, because you only need to draw as black, you could just trade off the queens and then win this pawn next move. Pawn up.
He's gone for it.
Too tempting.
Yeah, too tempting indeed, you know.
Yeah. Big attack against the white queen now. The queen has to move.
It should be noted, though, Aronian again, you can see he's scratching his head, and we say he doesn't get nervous. He's nervous a bit today, isn't he? I mean, it's clear that he's jiggling about a bit, and he knows again he's on the verge of winning this match.
And he only needs to draw in this game.
Yeah, he needs to draw, and he did talk a couple of days ago, even before the finals. He talked about the hunger, the appetite. It's clear. I mean, not just the appetite for those seeds and berries that we've been seeing him eat, it's just that appetite to beat these young players and show the world at 39 years old, actually by a distance, the oldest player in this whole tournament, that experience counts.
Absolutely. He's been so impressive, Levon Aronian, and his form has really been growing throughout the tournament. It started not so good, but here he is, maybe about to win the whole thing.
Never give up. He started with 2 losses in the whole tournament, 2 losses in a row.
Wow.
And he's bounced back.
And I remember his day 2 in the prelims wasn't that impressive either. And it's quite curious, actually. This is the first time I think we've ever seen a final where we had someone who finished 7th and 8th in the prelims competing in the final. We don't get that ever.
True.
Yeah. Very strange tournament in a way, where all the young players shone so early and then they shone brightly, but the kind of stars faded, and then the older guy like Levon Aronian, he's been shining consistently throughout, but a bit brighter every day.
Yeah, that's true.
Meanwhile, so many tempting moves again for Black. Black's queen can come in. Again, if you want to play it safe, you can eliminate the white bishop with the black knight. You could give a check with the black knight in a different way. You can bring the black bishop to attack the white rook.
You're naming a fair few again there.
Multiple choice again, that's the problem. That's why Levon's spending a fair bit of time. Too many...
Yeah, I think this kind of goes back to what I was saying. If you were in Black's situation here, looking at what your critical move's been, he's played the queen in. You look at the most critical move, the move that creates the biggest threat first, and calculate if that works. If it works, you don't even need to look at other options, and this is the most critical move. You attack the rook, you're threatening to win a piece, you're getting your queen into the danger zone, and, well, I mean, I'm not sure... OK, just don't take the rook now. Don't take the rook now.
There is a trap.
There is a trap,
Yep, and White's queen was actually threatening to go up and capture the b7 pawn, the pawn in front of the black king, and that would have been checkmate. But Levon has just defended that pawn now, just trading off the bishops.
So I suppose the key line is here, what happens if the pawn pushes on? Can you can you just give up your rook or something, I expect? Minimum. Maybe there's other options, but...
If the pawn steps forward, again, don't take it because of checkmate. But yeah, as you mentioned, Simon, there are other options. You don't take the pawn, of course, but I guess at the least you could just take this one because you are threatening checkmate yourself.
Yeah, and this is probably why you spent a bit of time just making sure, because you are material down, I think. I can't really count anymore, there's too many pieces. Maybe you're not even. No, you're not. So I've sort of lost count of this game. So if you're not material down, then, well, it's tremendous. Yeah.
The queen is coming in. This is going to be disaster for White, so he needs something magical now. I guess he needs to trade the bishops, just process of elimination. The bishop is attacked, the rook is attacked. You need to trade the bishops off, and then... Now what? I mean, the rook is just so loose right now, attacked by the black queen. This is still pin. Maybe you can defend everything on this rank, but it's not going to last for long. Black can grab this pawn, Black's rook can come and grab this pawn. It's one-sided traffic.
In fact, the position we have up there on the board, that is White's best chance of defending, and it looks pretty miserable.
Yeah. If that's the best he's got, then, you know, it's ugly playing like that as well. You don't want to go into that kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's... I mean, first of all, you just have to trade the bishops. I think he'll get there eventually, but he's looking for the move next, the move after that, and because White's rook is so loose in the middle of the board, that's the only reason I can suggest bringing the other rook up to defend it, but... He's only got 1 minute now, Wei Yi, and that's, as we've seen, that's where his mistakes have all been in the final, under the 1 minute mark.
It's really turned around. Unfortunately for Wei Yi, not only is he suffering on the position, he's suffering in terms of his clock, and there's just, unfortunately, no proper remedy either for his troubles. And there we see Levon stretch.
Hang a minute, has he resigned?
He has resigned.
Wow.
No hope for Wei Yi. The tournament finishes. Levon Aronian is the winner of the FTX Road to Miami. No smile on his face so far. He will probably want to look over this game. But, David, how impressed are you with Levon Aronian?
Extremely impressed, especially today. He had a great day yesterday, Levon, but it was a bit shaky at times. But today just seemed smooth. He was on the front foot for all of it, and he really asserted his control over the match. He's got better every single day. 8 days in a row, he's stepped up his level, and he deserves it. A worthy winner.
Absolutely. What kind words do you have to say about Levon Aronian now, Simon?
Yeah, I mean, just really impressive, and it's good to see the old guys do the job. You know, because he's been around for so long, Lev. He's been world number 2, and you know, he's one of those players I'd really like to see facing the top guys again. You know, and he's on that path. So yeah, well done, Lev.
Yeah.
Really nice, and he's a lovely guy as well. So you know.
And we're joined by the lovely and great Levon Aronian. Congratulations on winning FTX Road to Miami.
Hi, guys.
Hi. Congratulations, Levon, on winning the tournament.
Thank you so much.
How do you feel right now?
Amazing.
What has today been like? It being in the lead, but Wei Yi, he came with some fun chess today.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he was playing extremely sharp, and he was close, of course. If not for, I think, some in time scramble, he was making some mistakes. If not for that, it would have gone either way, of course.
Yeah. Now, the first game, when you won that one, we weren't quite sure what happened in the end there. Did he resign? Did he lose on time? It was a little unclear to us what happened there.
Yeah, I think he made this mistake and he resigned out of frustration.
Aha. And then we came to game 2. You could end the match with a win in that game. What was your plan going into that game?
I wanted, just to play safe. At some point, maybe I played too safe. I shouldn't have exchanged the bishops. And then I had to play, the white-colored bishops. And I had to play precise to equalize after that. And then, suddenly he overpushed and I had very good winning chances, but I didn't take full advantage of my position.
Now, Levon, you started the tournament with 2 losses in the preliminaries, and here you are winning the whole thing. You knocked out many great players. What have you been the most happy about with your play and with your performance?
Well, the steady improvement, I think. Because, of course, I didn't really deserve to be in top 8 because my play was very, very poor. And then after that, I think I got myself together. And I think I played better.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and congratulations, first of all, Levon. How will you celebrate now? And what are your plans between now and, of course, that big Olympiad coming up?
I will celebrate with Ani and Ponchik. That's all my celebrations are connected to 2 of my favorite creatures.
That's so nice. Did you actually bring Ponchik to Armenia?
Oh yes, he's here. Ponchik is here. He has too many fans in Armenia that stop him from relocating. So.
Absolutely. That's so cool. And of course, David mentioned Olympiad coming up in a few weeks. What does it mean to you to get the confidence from winning this tournament heading into that big Olympiad?
Oh, yeah. I think this was definitely one of my best performances play-wise. I think I was being resilient, which is very important. So it's a good confidence boost. And I think I'll try to build on this.
Of course. Levon, big congratulations on a fantastic performance. And thank you so much for all the entertainment.
Thank you very much, guys. Love watching you. And I also really love what Peter Leko is doing. He's my favorite commentator. So just wanted to send my regards to him.
Thank you for the kind words, Levon, and best of luck in the Olympiad.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us. We are also joined by Wei Yi, unfortunately losing the final, but ending up in 2nd place. So I'll say congratulations on 2nd place, Wei Yi.
Thank you.
So what was today like? You had to fight for some wins, some very entertaining games. How will you sum up today?
Yeah, I think the result is not good today, but I think the games were interesting. But of course, he played very good, and maybe I don't have any chance, I think.
Now, we loved what you brought to the board in the final game. That was some really entertaining opening stuff. What was your plan for game 3?
Yeah, I just want to make the position crazy, and the G4, the idea is Mamedjalov played this with me, and I think it's interesting. But I think Levon played very, very good, and maybe it's yes.
Absolutely, yeah. Now, making it to the final in this tournament, your first final in the Meltwater Champions Chess Tour. So how happy are you with how you performed in this online rapid tournament now?
Yeah, I think The online repeat is very interesting to me, but yes, but maybe I should play more accurately, and yes, maybe I should improve my repeat online. Yes, but the result is, I think it's good for me. But yes, maybe next time I can do better. I hope, yes.
Of course. And we do know, of course, China, unfortunately, will not participate in the Olympiad. What is your plan going forwards now over the next few weeks and months?
Yeah, I think next month there's not too many tournaments in China, and I hope I can go to Miami. Yes.
Absolutely. We really, really hope to see you in Miami. Now, how hard is it to be a chess player in China right now with restrictions in traveling and being inside China as well? Is it difficult to play enough chess?
I think it's there are some difficulties to go abroad, and but yes, but I hope I can play some high level tournaments, and yes.
Absolutely. Now, we really, really hope we get to see you in Miami again. Congratulations on second place, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Wei Yi ending up in second place. It's been impressive, Jovanka.
He certainly has, Also, again, what a journey he's had from the preliminaries all the way to the finals. And I really also hope that he's in Miami and participating on site in what's going to be one of the most amazing events ever.
Yeah, I agree. Well, the tournament is finished. Let's finally take a look at the results from this final match. In the final, Levon Aronian, he won the first match yesterday. Wei Yi started out knocking out Samuel Sevian. In the quarterfinals, Levon Aronian knocked out 18-year-old Arjun Erigaisi. And in the semifinals, a great match between Jan-Krzysztof Duda and Levon Aronian that Levon eventually won. Wei Yi, he knocked out Richard Rapport to make it to the final. And in the final, Levon Aronian won both matches, and he is the champion of the FTX Road to Miami. And it's cool now to take a look at the tour standings, you guys. So we do know Ding Liren and Pragnananda, they played the final in the previous tournament. They have qualified for the FTX Crypto Cup Major starting August 15th. And so has now Levon Aronian and Wei Yi. So 4 players definitely qualified. And also the 2 players on top of the tour standings, Magnus Carlsen and Jan-Krzysztof Duda, they have both qualified for that major. The 2 final spots will be given to 2 wildcards. Who do you hope to see in Miami, David?
I mean, any of those guys on the list in front of us, they are all very exciting. They're all great people as well. They'll all play exciting chess. I would like to see Anish Giri there.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe one of the younger ones as well. I mean, of course, we'd love to see Nepomniachtchi. He might be busy. Yeah, anyone on that list.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. The second major in the Meltwater Champions Chess Tour starting August 15th with 8 players on site in an esports arena in Miami. Ooh, that's going to be so much fun. We will be here in Oslo commentating from the studio, but lucky people going to Miami.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a beautiful city.
Yeah.
It's called the Magic City, apparently.
All right, well, I hope you guys join us again August 15th for the FTX Crypto Cup. And thank you so much to everyone for sharing your thoughts and selfies on Twitter. We have to announce a winner.
We definitely do. And once again, I also like to thank everyone for sharing their selfies throughout the tournament, just getting involved in the fun, the conversation. It's been fantastic. And of course, there only has to be one winner, and that is Rafa Schon, who says, Go Aronian, right from Brazil, big fan. And there we see he's watching us on the big screen. And congratulations, Rafa. You are today's winner of the 1 year's Chess24 Premium membership.
Absolutely. Thank you to everyone for sharing on social media. A big congratulations to Levon Aronian, winner of the FTX Road to Miami. Remember, it is the FTX Summer of Chess. Go claim your free FTX crypto key to unlock the whole community of fun stuff happening for this tournament and the next one, FTX Crypto Cup. It's going to start in a little over a month. You guys, David, Jovanka, good luck in the Olympiad. We will be cheering for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We need luck.
It's going to be fun. Simon will lean back and follow them from at home.
Yeah, I might actually stream. Maybe if they get some interesting matches. Obviously everyone's cheering for you and for England. So go for it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll try.
It's going to be exciting. Remember, follow the Olympiad on Chess24 as well. And we will be back August 15th. Hope to see you then. Bye for now.